Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow underway. The Wednesday edition has arrived. Glad you're with us on the OutKick Network. YouTube is where you can find us, streaming live each day. Hope you'll search out OutKick. Join us there. Chad is in the chat, which is already busy. I can see him typing away right now. If you're listening on this great radio partner, we say thank you. Jam-packed show as usual. Let's have a show today, Chad.
Let's have a show.
Let's have a day. Chad Cascadden, the other Chad, will join us. I will meet my second Chad in my life, I believe.
So few of us doing good things in the world. So to meet another Chad is a true honor. That's actually being somewhat successful. Still an argument out there how much success this Chad is having.
We'll compare.
But the Chad that we're having on today is successful. So I look forward to talking to another Chad that's not a complete douchebag, which is very rare in this world.
Fair enough. Chad Cascadden, not that. He's former Jets linebacker. SNY broadcaster. He joins us coming up in 20 minutes with the vibe. We'll get the inside reaction to what's going on with the Jets, quarterback options, and much more. Clay Travis also on today's show each and every Wednesday in hour number 2. Looking forward to that chat as well. A lot to hit. Throughout the show, we'll hit SEC, Big Ten, NFL topics galore. We start, though, Chad, with Scorched Earth, our top headlines of the day. And we start in the NFL, where the NFLPA executive director, Lloyd Howell is his name. He replaces DeMaurice Smith, who stepped down right around the start of the NFL season. Lloyd Howell, and on behalf of the players, demanding a switch from artificial surfaces, artificial turf, to natural grass. This stems from, of course, a litany of players who are on board with this idea, and they have the floor right now because of the injury to Aaron Rodgers, and it taking place at MetLife, which is notoriously one of the stadiums, Giants, Jets, every weekend they've got NFL teams coming through, known for the turf, soggy turf on Monday night. Rodgers goes down with the Achilles injury on the 4th snap of his tenure with the Jets. The statement from the new executive director, Lloyd Howell: moving all stadium fields to high-quality natural grass surfaces is the easiest decision the NFL can make. The players overwhelmingly prefer it, and the data is clear that grass is simply safer than artificial turf. It's an issue that has been near the top of the players' lists during my team visits, and one I have raised with the NFL. Roger Goodell has responded to this. He was on ESPN early this morning and said, they're going to look into all aspects of if this is accurate or not. The turfs are different, and it's also collectively bargained, quite frankly, if they wanted to change this. We know that Messi refuses to play on turf, Chad, and now the NFL players are vocal about it again. This is not the first time. It won't be the last. And I will also add in, there are some awful natural grass stadiums. For decades upon decades, the Raiders had a baseball diamond in the middle.
Their problem was the dirt,
the 50-yard line,
not the grass.
And but I'm simply like the level of pristine natural surfaces are, a dime a dozen when it comes to like the perfect climate and the perfect stadium that actually keeps it up. Are NFL owners going on the cheap with this without maintaining that surface? Yeah, they don't have to resod it, and they can get events in and out and play multiple games on back-to-back days or state championships or anything else they want to do. But if the players really want this done, there's a way to get it done. Just refuse to play on it like Messi does. Instead, they sign with teams that have natural grass surfaces because it's faster. It allows players to play fast, and some players want that.
And with the soccer comparison, it's interesting. It's a little bit different in that it's not just an injury thing. It's the way the soccer ball moves, the way the game is faster, the way it changes things on turf versus grass as to why a lot of soccer players hate any artificial surface. It's less about the speed of the surface and more about the risk of injury for football players and planting. And we're talking specifically now NFL players, this complaint.
And non-contact. We should also mention that, which was not the case for Rodgers.
Yeah, and look, if this is now the hill that we're going to die on for the NFLPA, and this is clearly a hot-button issue, and I knew the moment there was any speculation about that turf playing a part in Aaron Rodgers' story of the NFL, Huge investment by the biggest market in America, New York Jets football team. Once he went down and there was any question about whether or not it was because of the surface, that there was going to be a groundswell of support to go back to natural grass on every NFL surface. So I understood that that was coming. Here's the thing about it. The NFL and its owners are so good at negotiating with the NFLPA, they almost always win. Can't you just go back to natural grass and score some enormous win with them in a trade-off that you could still profit from? I mean, is the desire to have other events and not have to have a grounds crew manage it because of the other events, is that so expensive and so much that you can't come up with the way to go back to the negotiating table and say, we'll give you this if it's a player safety concern, like you say, but you're going to have to give us this, this, and this. I just feel like there's a way with the master negotiators of the NFL that always seem to win when it comes to their own players association. They could use this and score a victory in the process.
But 14 teams still have natural grass.
It would take the other 18 to come around.
Well, but like, for instance, 4 of the stadiums right now have a different turf than what we see at MetLife. There's this Helix something with coconut shells that you actually water. The Titans are one of them. Mike Vrabel, the head coach, who is a former player, backs this with what they put in at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. It's also at SoFi. It is at NRG in Houston. They have it at one other stop, I believe. Maybe it's Vegas. There's another stadium with this same turf. Point being, they say the research on this new turf isn't the same scale of injury as the old. And there's plenty of charts and data that point to more injuries on turf than not. I'll also say J.K. Dobbins went down with an Achilles injury, and that was on natural grass on the same week, in week 1. But I tend to believe if the owners thought that their marquee players, and that's what it takes, the marquee players.
Well, here's one of them.
Went down, that it was causing such an injury uptick that it wouldn't be something that others would voluntarily go to just because they can play a bowl game on Saturday or an SEC championship game on Saturday and then roll it in to a game on Sunday. And what do you do for the domes that, quite frankly, don't have what Phoenix has? Glendale, where you roll out the turf and roll it back in.
By the way, we are getting clarification here from some people on the YouTube chat, so we should clarify this. Lionel Messi did hold a press conference and was asked about it and said he is okay playing on turf. That he is, unlike a past superstars who have joined the MLS, that would not prevent him from playing in a match if it was on an artificial surface. So just wanted to clarify that.
After his first game, their first road game was in Atlanta, and the discussion was whether or not he was actually going to play.
I have not, full disclosure, I've not heard or seen that press conference. So I just wanted to clarify that. Here's the thing with that. I know we've got some graphs on specifics of injuries on grass versus artificial surfaces. There is a great scientific debate to be had. And Dr. David Chow came on yesterday and told us about the merits of some of the arguments, but also some other ones like this Aaron Rodgers injury where he said, I think it would have happened on any surface you were playing on, that it didn't have anything to do with it, with this specific injury. My thing is, if all the players think that it's a problem, then it's probably a problem. And I think the mental aspect of it is a part of this. And if it is so important for him, Hutton, you brought it up, these things are collectively bargained. What are you going to give up to get the other 18 owners to put natural grass on their field? I just see this as yet another opportunity. I'm not trying to speak to NFL ownership and say, hey, here's a way you guys and gals can get it right this one time. They get it right all the time. They'll probably get it right on this too. If this is this big of an issue for the NFLPA, get rid of all artificial surfaces, put natural grass down the fields, and then watch what the owners get in return with that trade-off. I'm willing to bet you it's a win for the league regardless. Even if they roll over on this one issue, I think what they get in return will end up making them more money.
Well, they have another decade before they have to worry about that based on the negotiations and the length of the contract. I'll also say this. these same players are practicing in indoor practice facilities with turf on a sometimes daily basis, unless you're in Cincinnati, who doesn't have the indoor facility.
Be a good question for players.
So
do you
want
to play on?
Put this new turf in their practice facility as well.
Yeah. Do you want to play on grass when it's freezing cold or raining? Do you want to abandon the indoor facility for the very same reason?
They'll negotiate less practice, Chad.
Yeah, look.
Keep the turf. Just we're not practice.
I don't know. I can see how it could be an issue on certain surfaces, and I definitely see how a bunch of rain in the New Jersey area and a very slick surface on that would be a problem. And that if you slip the right way, you're going to hurt your Achilles or hurt your ankle in a certain way. I get all of that. I just think that if this is such a big issue for the players, I'm just looking at what they're saying, not what I necessarily think about it. If this is a die-on-the-hill moment for the players, I'm still willing to bet you the owners could give this to them and still end up getting more in return because of it.
Well, I want to see the results of the new version of whatever, or in some of these stadiums, 4 of the stadiums, and see the results on that, because the climate is not the same like we see at the Rose Bowl everywhere. It's just not doable. And if you want that, if you want to go to the natural turf, the turf will end up being dirt by the time December rolls around. And in some cases, like Washington's old stadium or current stadium, all the time.
Well,
there's no protocol. Players are playing on, pastures at least once every 2 or 3 years in the rotation based on Washington and what used to be in Oakland.
It's a difficult situation with MetLife Stadium because you got 2 owners involved that play on that surface, right? So it's not as easy as Woody Johnson is so distraught by his star quarterback and investment going down that he's going to rip up the artificial surface and put down grass because there's too many considerations. It would be an interesting case study to see what would happen if Aaron Rodgers was playing for a different owner that also had ownership in the stadium, and if that owner decided, I'm not having this happen again, I think that surface played a part in it, I'm going natural grass.
Robert Saleh did say, in some cases it could cause injury. He says for non-contact, he would lean that way. This was
a contact injury.
Trauma-induced contact is the way Saleh referred to it as. Chad, lawsuit filed for discrimination and retaliation by Jim Trotter, a former reporter for NFL.com, who's now with The Athletic, has filed a lawsuit stemming from how he was, his contract was not renewed this past March after being told that it would be by the VP of on-air talent management for the NFL, who last year told him, hey, we expect the contract to be renewed, indicated that the network, NFL Network, would want him to be in an expanded role. And that changed. And I remember the tweets that were going out at the State of the NFL address by Goodell at the Super Bowl this past year in Arizona, where Trotter brought up he phrased it in a way that he phrased the same topic the year prior about minorities being in high positions within the league. And he was the one that asked the question, and the tweets were going out saying, here's Jim Trotter, who works for NFL Network, NFL.com, asking the commissioner about this. And it turns into things that he was censored about, and how after he asked these questions while Goodell's at the podium, turns out they didn't renew his contract, and he ends up at The Athletic, and we see this lawsuit. Among other allegations, including Terry Pagula with the Buffalo Bills, that ownership.
I think there's a lot of, hot take type opinions on both sides of this. Some defending Jim Trotter and saying everything he says is absolutely true, taking it as gospel, that he should get, everything he's suing for from the NFL and beyond. The NFL owners are all racist and this and that. And there's other people saying, oh, here's someone in our YouTube chat, here's another racist grifter trying to make money off of racism with Jim Trotter. Here's what I know about this, and this should not surprise anyone. If you go after your bosses publicly, you're probably not going to get renewed. You might get fired. I don't know that any of this surprises anyone. If you decide to take a job with NFL.com, and as part of your job, you get this calling internally to seek justice and go on a crusade against the racist owners of the NFL, and you start asking your boss, the commissioner of the NFL, questions that make him uncomfortable and the league uncomfortable, and when approached about backing down from that, you tell them, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to uncover the truth. I'm a journalist. Their response is probably going to be, well, you can go be a journalist somewhere else because you're not going to make money from the NFL questioning all of us and saying that we're all racist. I think that's pretty common sense. Now, here's the other thing I would say. I'm pretty sure the NFL has created a contract that they have protected themselves pretty well against things like this with this lawsuit. So, I mean, do I think that, there might be a racist tendency in some owners in the NFL? Sure. I'm not blind to it. Everybody's got some sort of bias here or there. Do I think that everything he said about Terry Pegula and Jerry Jones was exactly as he's claiming? I don't. I don't know that because they're denying it also. Yeah. But this seems like pretty common sense stuff to me, that he wasn't going to be renewed when he started down this path.
And the questioning was about why what they discussed a year ago had not been addressed visually, where you can see minorities getting opportunities in executive roles within the league. And Goodell quickly moved on with his answer, but it came from a reporter that works for the league. More on this a bit later. We dive into the Jets and where they go from here. Chad Cascadden joins us next.
I know you have a very close relationship with them. That's been ongoing for decades now. A lot of people don't realize how you two met. I would love for you to share the story and then also just explain why your relationship with him is still so important to this day.
Yeah, so we met because when we first bought the UFC, none of the venues wanted the UFC. The UFC had a horrible stigma attached to it that we were trying to obviously change and turn this thing into a real sport, get it sanctioned, but venues didn't want us. Now we break every venue record in the world. Back then, venues didn't want us. Trump, think about it too. At that time, the Trump brand was here. UFC brand was, where it was. And this guy saw it. He got it. He wanted us to come to his hotel. He showed up for the first fight, stayed the last fight, both times that we did an event with him. And then after that, everything that ever happened to me in my career after that, he was the first person to reach out, whether it was a phone call or one time he wrote me a letter on the cover of the New York Times when we got a story in the New York Times. Just saying congratulations. I always knew you were going to do it. And through that, he and I have created a friendship. He's always been incredibly loyal to me and good to me, and I've been the same.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because we've seen him attend a couple of UFC events recently, and oh my gosh, the fanfare. I mean, the excitement, the energy that he stirs up in these sold-out arenas is just insane.
Yeah, I think that right now in these times that we're in and some of the things that we're talking about, UFC, the fans, the fighters, the staff, everybody's pretty aligned. I wouldn't say that we're all equal politically because that's impossible to be politically equal with everybody. Many things about me. I was an old school Democrat at one point. I was a Democrat. I wouldn't consider myself a hardcore Republican. I'm right down the middle, and I'm about common sense. I'm all for common sense. As soon as common sense goes out the window, you lose me. You know what I mean? So I think that as a whole, the UFC base are very much aligned in many ways.
Yeah, common sense is a theme that we like to keep ongoing here at OutKick. So, I've always appreciated you from that aspect. One thing that I think wasn't dealt with so much common sense was the situation in Lahaina. I know that, our current president took his sweet time getting down there. But the UFC, fortunately, was there to provide some relief for the wildfires that caused so much damage to the entire island. I know donating $1 million up front. Is this a cause that you would say is really close to your heart, and how successful has this campaign been so far, Dana?
Yes, first of all, as an American, if anything happens in any state in America, if you own a business, a successful business, you should support. Number one. Number two, Hawaii, everybody in America loves Hawaii. Everybody wants to go there. Everybody wants to take a vacation to Hawaii. And the people there are incredible. They've been very good to the UFC, huge supporters of the UFC. Athletes have come from Hawaii. We love Hawaii, like the shirts that we're selling right now that say to support Hawaii. We love them over there, and we're going to do everything we can to help.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Diehard Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday. We've got primary complaint coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Clay Travis will join us in an hour from right now. Chad, how many other Chads do you know?
Boy, I'd say maybe 3 to 4.
Okay.
Solid contacts in the phone by the name of Chad. There's not a lot of us out there that one would like to call a friend.
Well,
the way people like to call me a friend, and probably our next guest a friend.
Yeah, you can add another Chad to your life, Chad. Chad Cascadden joins us, former New York Jets linebacker, SNY broadcaster. Chad, thanks for taking the time, and hope things are well.
Things are well, of course. In Chad world, we got to stick together, us Chads. Now, there's not many of us out there. And everybody seems to think my name is Jack because I always say, hey, I'm Chad Cascadden, and I get Jack a lot.
I get Dad a lot. Like when anyone says, I don't know if you have the same problem, Chad, but when someone from my life, if they yell Dad or say it in the right way, I always kind of turn around thinking for a second they're saying Chad at that point. But you'd have to agree the name Chad has become, I think, unfairly ridiculed over the years, to the point where we almost have to defend ourselves for having this name.
Well, I don't speak for yourself. I don't defend myself. I'm just like, you can call me. I'm the perfect alpha Chad. That's who I am.
Oh, I love it. This is in the friend group now.
No, man. Look, I have 4 boys. I'm opinionated, as you might see on SNY. I've got a loud voice, and I'm kind of that. I'm kind of a Chad, I guess you'd say.
The alpha Chad. Meet the beta Chad. No, I'm just kidding.
Kindred spirits right here. Kindred spirits.
Two Chads in a pod.
Chad Cascadden with us. So can you describe the vibe post-game for the Jets on Monday night with Rodgers being done and the Jets actually winning, but it was very somber?
I was on the field when Vinny Testaverde blew his Achilles out in the 99 season after we had that great run in 98. And the beginning of the season was, I don't want to say it was just as good as that Monday night, because I had friends at that Monday night game and they said they've never had electricity like that. That was as much as they've ever seen. But the 99 season for us was, we got everybody back. Curtis Martin at running back. We got everybody back on defense. And we go out there and, Vinny blows his Achilles, and we just felt the entire place. It was like a balloon. Like all the air just went out. So the fact that the Jets were able to rally and win that game, especially on a walk-off punt return, which is insane, really, it said a lot to me about the coaching and the ability to rebound off of such a unbelievably bad injury. Now, he did come off. They said it was an ankle issue, but I think as you saw the replays, it was very clear that, it was Achilles. When I saw it immediately, I was like, this is Achilles. I knew it immediately. I'm like, I've seen that before. So, fans are like, throwing their hands up, go out, sign another guy. I think they got the guy in house.
Let's talk about the guy in house in Zach Wilson, Chad, because I look at that roster for the Jets. We talked about it a lot yesterday after this injury on Monday night. I see an elite roster on defense and the supporting cast of Zach Wilson.
Yep.
Has he improved enough, not just on field, but from a leadership standpoint that clearly was lacking with some of his public comments a year ago, to where this team, maybe not a Super Bowl favorite or anything, but a team that could still very well be a playoff team and win a playoff game?
Yeah, I would imagine that he's probably had a couple of slices of humble pie since then. And also, he's now operating behind a guy that knows how to do it. And he took that, I think, to heart. And I think he's been trying to basically copy what Aaron Rodgers is doing. So you can even see some of his throws are eerily similar, like that throw into the end zone was basically the same exact play Aaron Rodgers threw in the preseason to the same guy. Same throw, same play, same everything. And, I mean, Wilson made an incredible catch on that. But I think he's got enough humble pie in him where he's like, look, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. He's also got a roster where he doesn't feel like – I don't think he feels like he has to carry the franchise. I think when he came in, he felt like maybe I have to show my arm off. I've got to carry the franchise. But now he's got a better O-line. He's got two great running backs. He's got great receivers and tight ends. And he's got a top 10 defense. So, having played for Belichick, and I did for 3 years, I know what they can do. Meaning, if you don't turn the ball over on offense and you don't get penalties on offense, and you can take time off the clock, and they can do that with that running game. They've got the running game. They can run the ball and shorten that game. And if he just doesn't go outside of what he's supposed to, I think the Jets still got a good shot at making the playoffs. Are they a Super Bowl team? Let's see if they can go on 2 first, okay, before we go to the Super Bowl. But I think there's optimism. I think he can play. I think Zach can play.
Chad Cascadden with us. So from the aspect of coach and GM, how do you think Woody Johnson handles this? Because it's clear he wanted the veteran. They go out and he pays. They get it. He's also been known to get rid of coaches or general managers relatively sooner rather than later if things aren't working out. He doesn't sit around and wait, even though it may not work for the next hire.
Right.
How much pressure is on Saleh and Joe Douglas to make it work with Zach Wilson now versus clear expectations of Super Bowl type performances week in and week out when they had Rodgers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I still think that there's high expectations, both from the coach and from the owner, of course. I think Douglas has done a real nice job of building this team. I knew it was going to take him a few years. He's got to get rid of some guys. He's got to bring in some new blood. He changed the culture a little bit. I think Rodgers was a real injection for not only just the offense, but for the entire defense and the coaching staff, because as a local here, you kept hearing even the coaching staff saying what a presence that he was in the building and how on the field, even during practice, he's talking to coaches and telling them, hey, why are you running this play out of this formation? It doesn't work like that. That's, I think, why he wanted to have Hackett there is because he had that relationship with Hackett at Green Bay and could tell Hackett, hey, I like the play. I don't like the formation. Or I don't like the call, but if you call this is a better call in this situation. I think for coaches to have a general on the field to give him that insight was super, super helpful. Now it's not there. Will Rodgers be in the room with the quarterbacks? I hope so. I hope he comes back. I hope he's rehabbing. I hope he's in the room with Zach. I hope that he puts in the effort because he's very, very valuable when it comes to play calling, play selection, what to look for on all these little tiny things that when you do make it into the NFL, it is those little tiny things. And so, does Woody Johnson expect a Super Bowl? I don't know. Maybe. Does he now? Maybe not, but let's win some games first and then see. Because this kid, I think he's got the opportunity to show that he's worth that number 2 pick. And if he plays with it himself, I think you're going to see a really, really good player.
And maybe it's as simple as if Rodgers returns, and I know that was more of a question on yesterday than today. The sentiment I've been reading and hearing is people would be shocked if he retires, but the age factor was brought up when the injury occurred. He's not. He would want to return to the staff that he chose to play for, and I guess you agree that there's no way he steps away from the game based on this injury.
It'd be unless he had a setback that was unrecoverable, which the doctors have said it's a very typical injury. It takes probably anywhere between 6 to 9 months to heal, but when it does heal, it'll be fine. And look back at what Vinny Testaverde did. He blew it in '99. He came back in 2000, and he did fine. He was fine. I think that he'll come back. I don't think he wants to go out on like this. I mean, I as a player, I can't imagine with his talent. I still think he can play. Maybe not at the exact level he used to play at, but I still think he can play at a very, very high level. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't come back.
How much of the discussion has been about the turf at MetLife, and where do you side on that debate?
It's interesting. I've blown my ACL on both knees, left and right knee, and I did them both on grass. So go figure. My best games were on turf, and I actually like turf. I also played on that Brillo pad turf, which is much different than the current, sort of fake grass that they have now with all the rubber pellets and all that. We played on that padded Brillo pad that, was kind of like concrete. This thick and basically concrete or, blacktop underneath it. But I actually played better on that. And I actually liked that better, although it did rough up your arms and knees pretty good. But as far as whether it's the turf's fault or not, look, when you got a 265-pound guy laying on the back of your heel, I don't think it would have mattered. I don't know if grass would have helped him or not. I don't know. They have studies to show that there's really no significant difference, but I think you will. If you asked players, what would you rather play, turf or grass? I think most would probably say grass.
Did we learn anything about the Buffalo Bills in this game? We clearly learned a bit about the Jets and their resiliency in that one. Was this, you just chalk it up to bad night for Josh Allen, great win for the Jets, or is there something deeper going on that may concern you a bit when you watch that Bills team?
Nah, Josh Allen had a bad night. I mean, you erase those 3 interceptions, the game's not close. It's over. Good to Whitehead, though. What a job he did. 3 interceptions in a game. I didn't have 3 interceptions in 5 years. So good for him. But no, this is a correctable mistake. He tried to do too much. He tried to use his arm too much. He was inaccurate. And, they're going to calm him down, and he'll be fine. And they'll be a team to beat because they're a good team. And I'm happy the Jets won because, I'm a New York fan. The Bills are technically New York too, right? So, but I'm quite sure the Bills they're going to be back. They'll be better next week.
What did they do at backup quarterback now? The Jets?
Ooh. Well, they're going to have to elevate the kid off of the practice squad, obviously. And I'm, probably bring in a veteran that may know the system a little bit better than someone who's just off the street. So I don't know who that is. It's a good question, guys, but I don't think that they anticipated something like this. And so they're going to have to go find somebody that's familiar sort of with this West Coast type of offense and the terminology and the numerology and all that kind of stuff, because it is like a different language. And, so my guess would be it's a quarterback that's very familiar with sort of that West Coast, Green Bay, Hackett type of offense and play calling.
Chad Cascadden has been our guest, former New York Jets linebacker. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and unfortunately, I don't know who that is.
He's probably on a roster somewhere, right? Like, that's the other downfall. The only positive, and it's not really a positive because it happened, you want him to play longer than 70% of the snaps, but at least you have your first-round pick a year from now and not giving that to Green Bay based on the terms of that trade.
I never thought of that.
Chad,
never thought of that.
Thanks for the time, man, and hopefully, your New York teams do well.
Hey, thanks. You know what? Jet fans deserve to have some wins and I hope that Zach can pull it together and and give the fans something to cheer for, because, you know, I'm actually from Wisconsin. I was a Green Bay fan, still am, but I got to tell you, these Jet fans, there's nothing like them. And when you can get them to and rally behind the team, there's nothing like it.
That's evident based on the atmosphere pregame and for the first series there. Chad, appreciate it as always.
Thanks, guys.
Chad Cascadden, Wisconsin and now New York and everything in between. That's right.
I think that I agree with him on Zach Wilson. I'm not quite as optimistic, but I do think that he can get the job that needs to get done now. That job he can get done. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers
this week,
but he can do what they need.
Is crucial for all of that, because he's got to not just lead. He doesn't have to be the guy, but he's got to be accountable. And he's got
to be a guy.
And no,
right?
Well, sure.
I mean, he's. I don't think he's ever going to be, to your point, Hutton, the guy on that team and that roster right now. But he needs to be one of the guys, and he separated himself from the guys a year ago with his post-game comments. He's got to He's got to get along and go along before he's in any type of position of leadership.
The week after the New England loss, where the defense allowed a total of 3 points, the players didn't really shy away from questions asked about Wilson because he wasn't the starter anymore. Saleh, in the going into the offseason presser, doubled down on the fact they weren't going to get rid of him. They were going to develop him. And now he's got to develop behind the scenes with the locker room. If he could do that, he could be successful. Primary Complaint is next.
Here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see, like, senile, not all there, probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their own politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Coming up in 40 minutes, Clay Travis joins us. Looking forward to that. Hot Mic with Hutton with our Wolves on across the OutKick network.
If I may.
Yeah, sure.
There's a microphone in front of me. So first off, let me get this drink out of the way.
It's all good.
Can I sound off for a second?
Yes. Someone bothering you in the chat?
No. Chat's great today. People are terrific in the chat. They're viewing our show, so we love them. The VMAs last night, the MTV Video Music Awards were on. I think it was on last night. I recorded it. It was on Paramount Network and not on MTV, but I think it was on MTV also. It's probably like a simulcast situation. I'm on Twitter, and I'm getting excited because all over Twitter is lit, or X, I should say. Sorry, I'll learn at some point. X is lit. People are ablaze because NSYNC is going to have a reunion at the VMAs.
Okay.
So when I say the 5 original members of NSYNC will be together for the first time in over a decade, and they're going to be at the VMAs, would you not expect them to perform?
Yes, I would.
Seeing as the
Yes, I
VMAs
would.
are a big performance vehicle, and that's all people talk about are their performances of the VMAs, I recorded this entire damn show, and I fast forward through it. And a couple things, look, I know maybe 20% of the artists of today is what I learned that performed on this show. But they did a 50 years of hip hop tribute where Run DMC and LL Cool J came out. They had a Puff Daddy like Lifetime Achievement Award where he went through all of his greatest hits, which was really cool. So some of the older stuff I knew. Shakira was the Vanguard Award winner, so she had a big performance, which was titillating. So I'm expecting to be titillated by NSYNC, right? J.C. Chazé, Joey Fatone, Chris Kirkpatrick, Lance Bass, Justin Timberlake. They come out, they say 8 words, and they present an award together on stage. That was it. That was the entire thing. Here's a photo of them presenting to Taylor Swift, who won the award. Justin Timberlake looked upset being there with these guys, quite frankly. Felt like his star power was diminishing around the 4 of them. I was bummed. I didn't spend. Now I did watch a couple of the old school performances, but having fast forwarded through it, recording it, and seeing that they did not perform, real bummer.
I miss. You're telling a story, and I'm thinking to myself how much I miss the old school MTV.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I'm watching some of that, and I'm like, even the clips of the videos. I did not see a second of any video. I think Taylor Swift won every award for Anti-Hero, that song and video. I think that's what was winning all the awards because that's what they kept playing every time she went up there. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm the problem. It's me, that song. I'd never seen a second of the video. Back in the day, Hutton, I would have seen that video 1,000 times.
And then it would have transitioned into Kid Rock to Limp Bizkit to 50 Cent.
Yeah.
You know?
I also, someone on there say hip-hop isn't music, hip-hop sucks. Old school hip-hop does not suck. The hip-hop of my youth does not suck. Some of the hip-hop of today, they may have a catchy beat or two, but it's a different form of music.
Chad's a fan of Backstreet Boys. I'm not even. Backstreet Boys would have performed, right?
Well, like when you watch like the medley of all the original hip hop songs going through the years, and then a modern rapper comes out today, it's not the same genre.
Starts with Lil.
It's well, I think even Lil's out now. Lil Uzi Vert, isn't that one?
Again, that's what I'm saying.
Dylan said yes.
Dylan knows.
I'm very hip.
Davey Hudson knows as well. He's
NSYNC didn't perform though.
Yeah, he's into the
such a
music of today and the youth.
You're a big South Park fan. There's that episode where Stan, I think it's like on his 10th birthday, everything just sounds like crap. And that's all he hears every time they play music. And I think I hit that moment about 5 years ago.
Really?
I'm trying to think of a song that's been released in the last 5 years that I actually
I thought
enjoyed.
you were discussing the episode where Randy announces
Randy
to
is
everyone
Lord?
he is Lord. Yeah. The artist.
I would have preferred Lord play. Quite frankly, compared to some of these acts that took the stage, I would have loved Lord.
Is Carson Daly there?
Lord is a throwback artist now on these award shows. Carson Daly did not make an appearance. LL Cool J looks great.
I just love the fact that
Puff Daddy.
Chad knew about this show. I had no
Puff
clue they were
Daddy
still doing
is
this.
53 years old, and he looks 33. The dude he's like Ted Williams on ice. He's like he's frozen himself over time. He looked terrific.
Well, you started with the, you call it Twitter still, even though it's X, or it's formerly known as. When was the last time we went by Puff Daddy, Chad? Come on.
P. Diddy, they introduced him as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, something else. Doesn't matter. He's a legend.
Sean
and then he
Combs.
came
Did you
on
just go by
stage.
Sean Combs now?
No, they didn't even say Sean Combs. I don't know who. I swear, every woman who took the stage, I thought was Lil' Kim.
Well.
And it may have been. Someone please hit me. I doubt anyone on the YouTube chat right now watched this last night, but someone has to inform me was Lil' Kim hosting last night? I could do a podcast just on me fast forwarding through the VMAs and my interpretation of what's happening.
I'm still hung up on you recording the VMAs in 2023.
Oh, man. Look.
It was all because of NSYNC?
It was all because of NSYNC, and they didn't perform.
Was Jamiroquai there?
Jamiroquai. Oh, man. I'm trying to think. New Edition also didn't take the stage. That is what we need, Hutton, is a throwback boy band tribute where Backstreet Boys, New Edition, what was the one? Manolo? The LFO.
Rich Cronin,
98
RIP.
Degrees.
98 Degrees.
Nick Lachey. We need one after the other on different stages rotating and playing their hits. That's a VMAs that I will celebrate, unlike the one last night.
Chad, I am stunned that this wasn't your primary complaint today. Just saying. It's not, because every week at this time we air our top grievance of the week, and Chad did it outside of this segment. So I'm eager to hear his coming up.
Hold on. So
go ahead.
Thank God for Allie in our YouTube chat. Our resident
Allie watched it
young
too?
person who saw it said Nicki Minaj hosted.
Oh.
I said Lil' Kim. Nicki Minaj is who I was actually thinking of when I said Lil' Kim. Nicki Minaj hosted. She was out there, but she had so many different looks and outfits on. It was a different person every time she stepped on stage. NSYNC presented Taylor Swift with an award, and in her speech, she speculated, quote, "Why are they all here? They're going to be doing something," is what she said.
Maybe they got into a fight backstage.
Maybe a Taylor Swift NSYNC collab coming
Maybe so.
as part of it. I mean, she acted like NSYNC, they were the Beatles, too, which was hilarious. She said, I had your dolls when I was 10 years old, talking about NSYNC, and you guys are pop music personified. I like country, and I like to be in all these different genres. You guys are pop music. And I'm thinking, easy. I love boy bands like everyone else, but let's chill out a bit about this, Were they Lou Pearlman also, or did they dodge the Lou Pearlman bullet?
Everyone was Lou Pearlman.
I know Backstreet Boys were Lou Pearlman. I don't know.
NSYNC, O-Town.
O-Town, wow.
And then
those were
Backstreet
all Lou
Boys.
Perlman.
Anyway, just a quick aside.
They're not Lou
Had to get
Pearlman
that off
anymore.
my chest.
Hey, it is time for primary complaint.
It's time to air our top grievance of the week.
You can complain all you want.
My job is so unfulfilling. Don't run away from your feelings.
It's time for Hot Mike's primary complaint.
Guys, my primary complaint this week is elevator etiquette. And it's about getting on the elevator instead of walking out of the elevator. I'm assuming anytime the elevator doors open anywhere that there's someone that is going to walk out of the elevator. That's not the case in the assumption for the average person waiting on the doors to open. And I have no idea why. And I view things as who has the right of way. In order for you to get on, I need to be able to walk out. And far too often, the look of disdain and anger as I should wait and get out of the way so you and your pet can get on the elevator before I get off, that is my primary complaint.
Huge problem. Huge problem on elevators everywhere. I love that one. My primary complaint this week, medicine that doesn't work at all. And I'm talking about this story. This is a story from NBC News. A key ingredient in many over-the-counter cold and allergy medications called, I knew I was going to screw this up, phenylephrine doesn't work to get rid of nasal congestion, an FDA advisory panel concluded Tuesday. The unanimous vote, which specifically declared oral formulations of phenylephrine ineffective completely, doesn't work. It's a placebo. I have enormous allergy and congestion issues. I think I'm allergic to this microphone because every time I get around it, I want to sneeze every single day. Maybe it's mental. You know why it may be mental? Because the fact that we have been being sold allergy medication for years now that's nothing. It doesn't work. I've long speculated it doesn't work because my allergies never seem to improve. Now we have the proof. Get it together, drug companies. If you're going to rake us over the coals constantly and produce billions, at least produce something that works. That is my primary complaint.
I need to get the article on this of the medications that actually entails, because I might be right there with you, Chad, as far as getting the placebo. Guys, my primary
By the way, Davey, I went and checked. I've got like a knockoff Zyrtec that I take daily.
Same.
It does not have this ingredient.
That's good to know.
Thank
All
God.
right.
So
Olbermann says that you have allergies because you don't take medicine.
Yeah, I'm not quadruple boosted, so that's why I have allergies.
Guys, my primary complaint is when I think everyone's at least had one of these moments in their life where they're in public and they walk into a single stall restroom and someone is using the restroom and they did not lock the door. And so then you have that awkward moment where they're like, oh, I didn't realize I didn't lock the door. And then you sit there, you stand there and you're just thinking, all right, I guess I just walk out now. Like, it's just such an awkward interaction, and it's so weird. And in the worst possible moment, somebody's actually sitting down. They don't have their pants on, and you're just like, now I have to envision that, like you're having to envision right now, and it's just awful. And that is my primary complaint.
I don't know how you forget to lock the door if it's a one, like the family bathroom or whatever.
Yeah, that's got to be first on the priority list. When you go into a solo bathroom is not just locking.
And there are far too often the doors that the lock barely turns, and I'm always paranoid that it doesn't lock. You know, but it does, but it doesn't actually click. It just I'm like,
here's
is
what
this
I hate.
working?
I hate the push locks.
Yes.
Because then when you try to check and see if it's locked, it automatically opens. And then I'm kind of looking at the side to make sure that it's in enough that it's locked. But there's no way to know because when you push down on the handle, it unlocks
Everyone
regardless.
can relate to this, Davey.
Automatically. So you got to, I'm like, you're just praying. I hope this thing is locked. There's no way to know. I want something I can turn and then check the handle to make sure no one's opening it and that it's locked.
Did this happen recently to you?
Yes. Happened within the last week.
Right here, I'm sure?
No. Well, I've always feared that it would happen at here at 6 and P in that one restroom that's like right in front of the actual restrooms where like 7 or 8 people can use at a time. This was actually at the gym last week. And it's just one of those things too where it's like whenever I'm going into a bathroom where it's like I actually have to physically turn the handle, you look down at the handle. And so then when you go in, your eyes come up. If you can imagine the eyes coming up and what I had to see in that moment. So it's just awkward. It's a terrible, terrible moment. And that's why it's my primary complaint.
I go to a gym where it has all over the walls, like no chalk, no throwing weight around, no excessive noise while you're working out. You know what I'm talking about? Like, not to throw people off. I feel like all the guys in the gym save the noise for the bathroom. Like they're all like making so much noise in the bathroom that I'm like, what's going on in there? What all is going on?
Yeah. Is everyone in there?
I go and it's like I can't have this release out in the gym when I'm doing, my squats. So now I have to get that noise out while I'm here in the locker room every time. It's very off-putting.
Instead of just grunting on the bench.
Yeah, I work out in silence. Like if I'm doing something where I have to start grunting or I'm laboring and I'm making noise, I'm stopping. That's my cue to stop the workout.
It's too intense.
Right.
You're not going to be that guy.
I don't need to get in something where I'm like throwing people off, thinking that I'm having some sort of medical episode while I'm lifting weights.
I have
very low impact.
I'm fortunate. No one's walked in on me in a public restroom. Thank goodness.
We have a great story, though. We don't have enough time for it now, Hutton, but we have a great story about a former employee who walked in on a former boss. And the reaction.
And they didn't get along.
The reaction of the employee
screaming at the former boss. Lock the blanking door.
Yelling at the person who's sitting there pants down.
A great one, Dave, because I'm now envisioning if that happened to me on the reverse end of things. Coming up, we've got headlines and week one in the NFL, full of lies and some truths. Next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Wednesday edition. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us.
Fun show so far.
If you're on YouTube, we hope you'll hit that like button, ring that bell, hit the alerts. You'll be alerted anytime we go live or any of the great shows here on the OutKick Network.
Every time you say ring that
there.
bell, Hutton, I hear James Conn in the program saying in the pregame pep talk, we're going to ring that bell. We're going to ring that championship bell. And then Latimer in a roid rage says, ding, bleeping, bleeping, dong. And I always want to follow it up with that.
We've got Clay Travis coming up in 20 minutes.
If you know,
Always
you know.
Great.
If you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I haven't seen.
Latimer in the skeleton face paint is when he's doing it. When he gets back on the
tremendous
juice.
Movie.
And then the very end, the very last game, they're trying to win the conference championship.
Yes.
And he says, we're going to, and he's like, I need 60 minutes of snot bubbles. And he's hitting people's shoulder pads, James Conn. We're going to ring that championship bell. Ding, da, 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 dong. And everyone goes nuts. Oh, such an iconic film.
Chad will make movie references all the time. And I think you'll agree. I've seen probably 2 or 3%, maybe that's high, of the film that you've
seen
watched
more
in
than
your
that. I think you've probably seen like 10 to 15% of them, but you've seen it maybe 1 or 2% the amount of times I have.
I'm always amazed. I don't have kids. I'm not going to ball practice.
I'm not watching the program with my 8-year-old yet.
I know, but you watch a lot. I'm always amazed with what you are able to consume with your schedule.
Yeah, well, more so, like the movies that I quote, Hutton, are stuff that I just watched as a kid over and over and over again.
Yeah,
like this is stuff I watched on VHS.
See,
or early DVD. I would watch this with a buddy when I spent the night with him in 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
We would watch the program on repeat, so I know the whole movie.
My references are, you would think I've only seen Wolf of Wall Street or Home Alone. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And you probably watch it every year. It's like a seasonal watch for you now.
Yeah, multiple times.
I don't go back and watch anything over and over again
2.
anymore. Now that I'm a dad and have a job and have responsibilities, I don't watch things over and over. But I mean, anything I watch from 6 years old to 23 years old, if I liked it, I saw it 4 times.
Yeah, I mean,
minimum. I saw it 4 times.
I didn't go to Home Alone 3. I stop at 2.
Yeah, you've seen Wolf of Wall Street multiple times.
Oh, absolutely. I would watch it. It's one of those movies you just stop on. It's Remember the Titans. If Remember the Titans is on,
I've seen that many times.
You're scrolling for something and you're stopping to see where they are in the movie. Hoosiers, same way.
Well, I just remember watching the program felt like the fall to me as a young person. Like when it came out, I want to say...
Yeah, you remember
92, 93, 94, right around there, early mid-90s. And I remember being like a middle school age kid and watching that and it feeling like fall weather, watching that movie. It's also when you're a kid, like the first introduction to, oh man, this is what big-time college football is like. You just assume everyone's on roids and, taking $100 handshakes, which maybe they were at that time.
I mean, Bill Romanowski did mention deer antler spray.
Yeah, it's very much a extreme version of the truth of college football of the time, right? That definitely was going on in some places, to some extent, but not as much as it was in the movie. Still a great movie. 1993, Ace says, was the program. People chiming in on the YouTube chat, loving the program.
If you need trivia when it comes to movie history or just date, Chad is you have the ability, like some with wine, they can tell you the year. That's you with movies.
I want to do we can do a whole episode, maybe, after football season during the summer, greatest big screen / small screen coaches. And I would put James Conn in the program up there right alongside Nick Nolte as Coach Pete Bell in Blue Chips. Very underrated for their pregame pep talks. And Coach Pete Bell with the legendary press conference where he admits to all the cheating they were doing in the press conference when he's asked about it. As Nick Nolte, great. He's channeling Bob Knight the whole time, who he learned under for the role. James Conn, though, has some iconic moments talking to his team.
I think of Pacino and Denzel. How about the coaches? But again, you're right.
Denzel, an all-timer also. But the scene in the program, one more recollection.
It's great.
When James Conn comes in at halftime, throws over the Gatorade on the floor in anger when they're playing like bleep. And then at the end of it, the backup quarterback who is also dating his daughter. I think his name was Collins, and he yells at him, "Collins, get a mop and clean this up."
Immediately.
Because he gets up, "Yeah, coach." He thinks he's going in because he's yelling at the starting quarterback. "Get a mop and clean this up." And then he just slams his door. Great moment.
Chad, some great moments in week one across the league. And some that there are examples of week one is also a liar. There are some truths, but also a liar. For instance, the most 3-and-outs in week one, the Cincinnati Bengals, 67% of their possessions, they took 3 snaps and then Burrow came back to the sideline. The Eagles were second on the list at 62%. Point being, I think we agree that's not going to be the storyline of those two offenses. There are others where it's a struggle, and it was last year too. Where I think we really have to buy into where we are in Week 18 are the divisional matchups that took place last Sunday. Because while I think it's easy to just say, well, the Bengals, it's just 1 week, it's a long season. It is. But the divisional loss, the Bills losing to the Jets. Maybe the Jets don't make the playoffs, but they beat Buffalo. That comes back to be a tiebreaker if it's between Miami and Buffalo at the end of the year for home field advantage, wild card spot, winner of the division, maybe to get in, get out. Who knows? But the Giants, the Seahawks, and Bengals and Bills with divisional losses, those are the ones that come to mind. Of course, Carolina, there were some other divisional matchups, but I don't think anyone's pointing to the Panthers as a playoff team. They could be in a bad division. That will factor in come January. And the same goes for conference losses. The Chargers losing to Miami in what was a great game, or the Vikings losing at home to Tampa Bay. That's one of the tiebreakers as well when it comes to where you're finishing and where you're going to be seated come playoff time. That matters, especially if you have a true home field advantage based on weather, and that factors in. So I agree with most of what the teams put out there, where it's we have corrections to make, but look, it's a long year. We're not going to harp on one game. We will be looking back at some of these individual games and losses and some wins based on what happened in week one. And I understand why the NFL puts in divisional matchups at the end of the year, because they don't want teams, or some teams could do it, they don't want a bunch of teams being able to just rest starters and not have impactful games going into the final week. I don't know why they schedule so many in week one, where offenses are routinely and normally slower out of the gate than defenses, some at a snail's pace, and others, Chad, that are ready to go and then suffer some consequences based on injury and other things. Simply put, a week 1 to week 18 discrepancy in the individual matchup within a division shouldn't happen that long. And week 1, have conference matchups. I'm not for the divisional matchups the way they have it structured, especially if teams are going back-to-back road games. And Cleveland's got a litany of AFC North matchups within the first 5 weeks of the season.
Hutton, there's one divisional matchup this weekend we haven't had a chance to really talk a lot about. Raiders over Broncos.
There you go. That's a good one.
Another example of that, and we're probably sleeping on that because of the Chiefs in the AFC West, because the Chargers-Dolphins was such a
You're right to
great
mention it.
high-scoring game, right? So you look at those two teams and automatically think those are the teams to beat in the AFC West. That's a big win for the Raiders and Jimmy Garoppolo. You got Sean Payton coming out of the gates with the onside kick that would have worked at his kicker, let it go.
Yeah.
Another foot instead. He goes 9.5 yards, and it's a turnover. They give the ball right there to the Raiders. That was a very competitive game. Maybe one that we don't even think about come the end of the season. Might be impactful for those teams.
It will be impactful in how we view Sean Payton. You know, because it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. I'm a believer, a strong believer in that. But come February and March, when you're going through the draft and you just look at a record and rattle off stats, you're not thinking about what happened in September as much as you are the total the returns on the test that was the 2023 season. And he's supposed to go in there and fix everything. He's in charge of everything. And Russell Wilson and Sean Payton are married to each other because Payton chose this. They've got to be much better than what they were. Can they improve? Absolutely. Jerry Jeudy's banged up. There are other things they can point to. But I think it's bigger. And also look at the flip side. Josh McDaniels and what's at stake for him. And Jimmy G just continues to win. He wins. It's not pretty, but the guy just has another victory instead of a loss compared to other quarterbacks.
Of those AFC divisional winners in week 1, Cleveland over Cincinnati.
That's a big one for Cleveland.
Jets over Buffalo. Raiders over Denver. Jacksonville over Indy.
Yep.
Am I leaving out another AFC one?
I think that's it.
I don't think so. I think that's it for them. Which one are you the biggest believer in of being 1-0 in the division?
Cleveland. Because of the way Pittsburgh looked. Baltimore, it was 7-6 at halftime to Houston, and they struggled. It wasn't easy. They've got a new coordinator. They picked it up in the second half. But, Chad, Cleveland is stacked. If Deshaun Watson can pick up the pace. Now, they made the right call on kicker, too, in Cleveland. Dustin Hopkins beat out Cade York, and in the rain, in some sloppy conditions, and that stadium's normally going to have it, he nailed kicks that ultimately extended the lead and put Cincinnati in a spot where they couldn't come back, even if they were going to get on a roll.
See, I think the Browns are the most impressive. I'm with you there. That's the team I think that looked the best in week 1 in that win. I go Jacksonville is the most impactful because of what's happening around them. That's a nice road win in Indy to start the season. Trevor Lawrence looked good. Calvin Ridley looked great with Trevor Lawrence in that offense.
Awesome.
Houston looked terrible, and we expected that. But they looked terrible agained Baltimore.
And the Titans lost, but
and the Titans,
a non-conference game.
Yeah, the Titans weren't terrible in a 1-point road loss to New Orleans. But
they scored 15 points. That's the issue.
Let's put it this way. It's 1 of 17. It's week 1. But any thought that, I had even coming into the season of, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to be really improved and have a big year. 0 for 1 because he was bad within that offense.
But there's no way he's worse than that.
I would hope not.
That's the worst we've seen him play since he was traded from Miami. Tua, the AFC win on the road, that's big because there's a chance that comes down to a wild card spot. And the Chargers now they're on the road here in Nashville this week. They do not need to start 0-2.
No.
And Miami won't. Miami's got New England coming up.
It's crazy to think about, but the Titans are at home against the Chargers, but it still feels like there's so much more urgency for the Chargers.
There has to be.
Based on the season they want to have within that division. But I think there should be urgency for the Titans, too, because this is a team that can compete for that division, and you don't want to fall 0-2 and losing game number 2 at home. But I don't feel that same sense for the Titans.
Chad, what do you make of the report that the NCAA could dissolve and the top teams could partner with the NFL? So
a farm system type situation.
More or less. And it already
Minor
is.
league. Yeah, they've already got the perfect setup.
So
the NFL does, I'm saying.
Sports Business Journal says that, quote unquote, a half dozen sources believe that there's potential opportunity for the league to swoop in the NCAA once and for all, bring stability to college football. And there's a part in this. The top 50 teams in college football sign a grant of rights with a partnership of Fox Sports, Disney, and the NFL. The mess that is college football right now is seemingly ripe for some kind of NFL intervention. So when I see that, I think of one thing on behalf of the National Football League. They already have the farm system, and it's free. They don't need. They've said this, and they're telling us that they dissolved NFL Europe for a reason. They've got the U.S. They don't need to partner with the USFL or with the XFL. That's going to happen anyway, and it's not a threat to them. And they have college football that they compete against for ratings, but really not.
No.
Maybe in bowl season, but again, not really. And they're going to get the top players anyway, regardless of where they're playing. 57 players from Alabama, I believe, are in the league this year across different rosters. That's the tops across any college football club program. why would you then have to create your own and get things off the ground? And you have the TV partnerships, but you don't. You don't really need to do it.
No, you don't. And college football does not need saving from the NFL. College football needs to get out of its own way. Let the market dictate what it's going to be. If they just stop the networks are deciding that, and that's what I mean by the market.
Right.
But if they just stop the movement and said, okay, here's where we are with the SEC and the Big Ten, the two top conferences, the other ones have good TV contracts in place, at least Big 12, ACC, where they can now survive. And let's let it play out and see what happens. Well, what you're going to see is what we're seeing now, cream rising to the top. Valuable brands that are in valuable conferences that get 8 to 12 million people watching games that we've seen in college football. Numbers are up. Ratings are up. Look at Colorado, Nebraska, matching Texas and Oklahoma. A new brand, an old brand playing at 11 a.m. Central Time versus a night game on ESPN. Pretty much equal ratings. People are watching college football at the highest level.
Yes.
Just step out of the way and let the market decide what's going to survive and what's not. And what we're eventually going to have is this super conference. I don't know how many teams will be included, but it's going to be far less than what we see now in college football.
Well, and
they don't need the NFL to save them to do that.
Just keep in mind, NFL media, the NFL would love to partner. They're looking for that investment to take over that side of the business. That could include what this report is putting out through sources. Coming up, Clay Travis joins us. We'll discuss quite a bit from the past weekend. Look ahead to his best bets next.
Hey, Davey Hudson of OutKick here. We are at SEC Media Days 2023 in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to go talk to some players, see what they have to say. What's the best purchase you've made from an NIL deal so far?
Tag watch right here.
Far.
Best purchase? I probably just give it back to my son for real. That's probably my best purchase every time.
Man, pay my truck off. Definitely.
A house. My wife and I bought a house, so that's been huge. Being able to save that money up and buy a house.
This chain here.
The best purchase? I'd probably say helping my mom out with school.
Ooh, the best purchase? Probably the shoes. The shoes I got on right now.
The best purchase I made, well, the best NIL deal I've had is free steaks from Marksbury Farms, so keep me fed and beefed up.
With it?
Ooh, purchase? Probably a new golf bag. Or recently I played TPC Sawgrass this past weekend, and that was from I used that money from a deal I made, so that's up there too.
Probably getting my sister through college, helping my family out a lot. That's probably my best purchase I've done.
Best purchase? Probably my my mom and dad anniversary gift.
The best purchase I've made? I got a yoga mat the other day, and that's helped me a lot. Just flexibility and everything like that, so probably that.
Best purchase? My smile. Best purchase? I would say my best purchase was having my school supply drive.
Landon, what is your favorite sports movie of all time?
Remember the Titans for sure. Sport movie, I say Love and Basketball. That's my favorite.
Got to be Remember the Titans for sure.
Remember the Titans. I mean, it's top movie ever.
Probably Longest Yard.
I'd probably say Like Mike with Bow Wow.
Yeah.
My favorite sports movie, Remember the Titans.
Air Bud.
Perfect answer, actually.
I really don't know. I don't have one.
Movie? I haven't seen many, but does Sandlot count?
Favorite sports movie of all time? Probably Coach Carter.
Ooh, sports movie. Probably The Express.
Happy Gilmore.
The Little Giants.
Mario, what was your most favorite sports movie growing up?
Remember the Titans.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
I don't know the other one, but definitely not Barbie.
Oppenheimer, gotta be. I'm not against the Barbie movie though. I tried to recommend it. I was shut down pretty fast.
Oppenheimer. Come on now. You don't need to ask me that question. Oppenheimer looks good though.
What's Oppenheimer?
It's a movie about the atomic bomb. It's the big thing that comes out this Thursday.
Yeah, probably that.
Oppenheimer.
Wait, what was the other one?
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
The opposite of Barbie. The opposite of Barbie. Yeah, so I'm not.
We're going to see Oppenheimer and then follow with Barbie.
Solid choice.
I don't even know what Oppenheimer is. I don't want to see Barbie, though.
Oppenheimer, 100%.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Say a little bit louder.
Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to watch both of them. Maybe on the same night. We'll probably watch. I think you got to watch Barbie first, just so you're not, Oppenheimer might be a little too intense. You know what I'm saying? So you warm up with Barbie and then you go to the Oppenheimer.
The second one, Oppenheimer.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
Barbie.
Sixth and Peabody, our broadcast location for Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. Diehard beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, I follow Clay Travis's wagering advice, especially at the beginning of seasons. He normally starts on a roll.
He really does his off-season research.
Yeah, or sometimes
Week 1 was incredible for Clay.
Yeah, 12-6, I believe, was the start for him.
Take that record anywhere.
Take it to PointsBet and OutKick.com/bet. If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, now's the perfect moment. Exclusively, first-time PointsBet users, a unique offer. You place the initial bet of $50 or more on any game. Maybe it's Tennessee, Florida this weekend. We'll get Clay's take on that in a moment. You receive an official jersey from Fanatics.com by making that initial bet of $50+. If jerseys aren't your thing, opt for $150 in credit to Fanatics and load up on the gear that you truly want. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You've got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. If you have a gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. And if you're ready to get in the game, head over to OutKick.com/bet. OutKick.com/bet is your one-stop shop for all things wagering. You can snag this offer and discover more great deals from our partner sportsbooks. Clay Travis joins us now. Clay, hope things are well, man.
I'm good. How are y'all?
Fantastic. You're saying take your advice this week would mean taking Florida and the points, correct, against Tennessee?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the absolute latest is. I placed my bets early in the week. So I got Florida plus 7.5. I don't know if that number has gone down under 7.5 yet or under 7, which obviously is a big difference from a gambling perspective. But I just think Tennessee is favored by too many based on what we've seen historically. And also, I frankly don't think Tennessee has been that impressive through 2 weeks.
I'm going to get the updated line in a moment. Here it is. So now it's 6.5. You still stick with Florida on that?
I still think I would take Florida. Obviously, I'd rather have, for people out there who don't pay a lot of attention to gambling, all points and all half points are not created equally. So the difference between, let's say, 7.5 and 6.5, even though it's only a point, given how often games end up on one side of a touchdown or another, is far more substantial than the difference might be, say, between, 12 and 13.5 or 11 and 13.5, right? There are a lot of points that are not created equal, and this is a big swing to go with Tennessee now under a touchdown favorite. But I still would take Florida, I think.
So, Clay, I look at, you said Tennessee not looking all that impressive so far this season. Certainly Florida did not look good on that Thursday night against Utah. Alabama losing to Texas. Outside of Georgia, doesn't it feel like the SEC's in for a bit of a down season?
Well, I think it's not only, so the 5 biggest games that the SEC has played so far this year, let me see if I can get it right. Florida State, double-digit win over LSU. Texas double-digit win over Alabama. North Carolina double-digit win over South Carolina. Utah double-digit win over Florida. And you start to look at all those and you say it's not just that the SEC is losing, It's that the SEC is losing and losing by double digits as you break down each of these games. And so at least the early part of the season, the losses are far more consequential and significant, I think, than the wins are. And that's ominous, I think, if you are a fan of the SEC, because usually what happens is the SEC racks up all these out-of-conference wins, and then that's the breathing room that helps to get more than one team potentially into the college football playoff. I think it'll matter less when we go to 12, but the fact that the SEC has lost what I would say are the 5 biggest out-of-conference games that they have played so far this year is the biggest outcome so far for the SEC, for the college football season so far.
Clay Travis with us on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Clay, Mel Tucker facing accusations and complaints from a rape survivor and activist in Brenda Tracy. At Michigan State, he's suspended until they finish their look-in after receiving the results of a Title IX investigation. They've had a ton of phone calls, and then allegedly one phone call of phone sex that apparently could cost him $80 million. Is the entire case centered around this one call and the fact that Brenda Tracy could not hang up the phone?
Yeah, I think to a large extent it is. And I think you can go and look at what USA Today reported. I always like to say, okay, what are the undisputed facts? And the undisputed facts are these. The two of them had 27 calls, and the average length of those calls was over 30 minutes. I would submit that most people do not engage in 30-plus minute phone calls that often. So here there were 27 of them. And on the alleged night of the phone sex, it was a post-midnight East Coast call. She was on the West Coast in Oregon, and it lasted 36 minutes. A couple of months after this phone call, she texted Happy Father's Day to him. So again, I'm not an expert, but the idea that you would engage in a 36-minute phone call, she said basically that she wasn't able to hang up, that she panicked, for lack of a better way, that she was frozen, for lack of a better way of describing it. It just doesn't add up to me. And I think it doesn't add up for a lot of people. And the idea that you would end up firing somebody over this situation, she was not a Michigan State employee. The only reason there's a Title IX investigation going on at all is because she was paid to speak. And it seems to me that he made the decision that he didn't want her to continue to work at Michigan State because he wasn't comfortable with how their relationship was being discussed. And so, I mean, again, I think you look at all of this, and the facts suggest that that Mel Tucker's being railroaded.
Yeah, Clay, you mentioned things that don't add up. What also hasn't added up is his win-loss record since signing that $95 million contract. Doesn't this all just seem a little too convenient that this is now happening and that they can claim that it is with cause and get out from under that contract? And if Mel Tucker is winning, like, I don't know, Jim Harbaugh is winning at Michigan, or winning like he was after he signed that, or right before he signed that contract, this would probably be something they would be defending their coach on?
Potentially. I mean, I think in general, the more you win, the more you can get outside the bounds of, quote unquote, acceptable conduct. I think that's true, by the way, everywhere. I think the guy who sells more cars on the car lot can get away with more than the person who is the worst at selling cars, right? People know and understand. The guy who's the best on the football team probably can get away with misbehavior that the guy who's the worst on the football team can't, right? We have shifting, oftentimes, standards for behavior based on performance. That's pretty commonplace in all facets. But that doesn't mean that, to me, the standard of, hey, you engaged in a phone sex conversation, therefore you can't coach football anymore. But that seems really strange to me, right? And even if she is a person who came and spoke on campus, that doesn't seem like it rises to the level of hey, your moral authority is gone now. You can no longer coach football. And it feels to me, and this is a big part of it too, it feels to me like she's trying to get him fired because she was upset that he canceled a speaking engagement that she had scheduled. So I think that's a big part of this story too, that can't be overlooked. She didn't make this complaint until he canceled one of her speaking engagements. My read on this is he was interested in her. She was interested in him. At some point in time, he made the decision, you know what? I need to break this off. This is not a good decision by me. And when he made that decision, she was upset and decided that there needed to be consequences for, in her opinion, behavior that he was involved in that she found to be inexcusable retroactively. I don't buy into the fact that somebody says something on a phone call that lasts 36 minutes and you're so stunned by it that you can't hang up on them. That doesn't add up to me. And so, put simply, I don't buy her story. And I just think Mel Tucker is being treated unfairly. I'm not saying that what he did was appropriate or that it was, morally sound, but I don't think it's worthy of being able to cancel a $80 million contract.
Clay Travis, OutKick founder, with us on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, from a Title IX complaint that was filed to a lawsuit that's been filed against the NFL by Jim Trotter, formerly of NFL Network and NFL.com, who's now with The Athletic. So many different branches to this story on the tree there, Clay. I want to zero in on one allegation and one guy who was named in this is the Bills owner, Terry Pegula. And the idea that, at least for me, in 2020, the NFL media had a video conference call where the topic was about social activism amongst black NFL players. The idea that in 2020 on this call, Pegula is alleged to have made a remark that is reported as, quote, if the black players don't like it here, they should go back to Africa and see how bad it is, end quote. That we're sitting here in 2023 and that hasn't been a massive story from 2020. I just don't buy that, given what the headlines were at the time and still remain.
Well, my understanding is a couple of things on that comment. One, the NFL said that was a allegation, and they investigated it, and they found that it wasn't said. I think it's very unlikely that if that was said, and I think it was said that they alleged on like a group chat call, like a Zoom style call during COVID restrictions.
Yes.
The idea that somebody wouldn't have that recorded anywhere seems highly, highly unlikely. And again, the NFL said they investigated it. They weren't able to determine that it occurred. Second part of that, I feel like there would be tangible evidence of that. He didn't witness it himself. He said that he had been told that was said. So he's making an allegation that he doesn't have any actual tangible evidence of himself, which feels to me like a desperate attempt to get attention for his lawsuit. So both of those things, I think, are very significant as you go towards assessing whether they were likely said or not. The other part of this, and I think this is a big part, and I think a lot of people sort of understand it in general, the only reason he filed this lawsuit was because the NFL chose not to continue his contract. Okay? I always think this is important. If the things at the NFL are so awful that you can't justify them, why did you want to keep working there? Why were you fine continuing to take a paycheck from the NFL? To me, it's amazing how often people file lawsuits after they decide that they no longer want to be employed, after they're told that they're no longer able to be employed, right? It would be one thing if he said, you know what, I'm stepping away. I'm outraged by what I've seen at the NFL. I'm going to file a lawsuit, some grounds or other. Instead, none of this would have ever come out if the NFL had just kept paying him, I don't know what his salary is. Let's say his salary is $250,000 a year. All the NFL had to do was extend his salary, and none of this ever comes out, and he never says a word about it. That seems strange to me. And so the reason why he filed the lawsuit is because he's not employed at the NFL anymore. And my thing is, well, if the NFL is as bad as you claim it is, why in the world did you want to keep working there? And why would this lawsuit have never gone public if the NFL had simply decided to continue your employment, pay you, again, I don't know what his salary is, $250,000, $300,000 a year. Let's say that's what he was making. I always think it's important to understand why these stories come out and what is the sort of underlying rationale for them.
Yeah, and going back to Pegula, just thinking through what you said there, Clay, and we're up against it, but the idea that everyone in the meeting appeared to be frozen and didn't know how to respond, we would have to believe that they've been frozen and don't know how to respond for 3 years.
Well, and Jim Trotter also was investigating his own boss, which is probably a reason why when they told him to stop doing that they said, we're not going to renew your contract.
Yeah, that he wasn't in alignment.
It's pretty common sense they weren't going to renew the contract when he said, I'm not going to stop.
Clay, we've got 20 seconds.
Yeah, I hope people get the bets in. You can go check it out at OutKick.com. I just walked through all 10 of them, and I hope people enjoy it.
I love the analysis. Thank you, Clay. I love the analysis of one of the games. It was just like, that's it. That's the analysis. We're going to reverse the spread, and we're going to see a cover just based on your typical, we're so pissed off that we lost that we're going to win big.
Better at gambling than I am, so I'll take his word for it.
Speaking of gambling, a volleyball gambling ring was busted up. That's next.
Right now, I mean, your wife's not listening. I don't have any, but I'm asking you, how many OnlyFans accounts do you have? Do you follow?
Zero, Dan. Okay. Listen, I'm busy. I have a lot going on. I don't have time for the OnlyFans investigations.
You know, my brother was trying to raise $250 million. This is a true story. For a huge project in Northwest Indiana, our hometown, which he got done. He got approached by an agent of two OnlyFans girls. Apparently, they're superstars in the world of OnlyFans. They had so much money, they wanted to know, could they get involved in this project? That's how much money these women have. They wanted to give millions to add to this project. My brother then researched OnlyFans, and he's like, yeah, I think we'll go to other places. I think we'll go to different banks. I think we'll go to private equity firms before we go to OnlyFans. But that's the kind of green a woman like, what's her name? Amy Garcia. Amy, yeah, good for her, man. She's raking in the dollars, right?
Oh, yeah. These are millionaires. These are millionaires, multi-millionaires, Dan.
Yeah, and I love America. What else we got here? Let me have a look here. This is a good
Go ahead.
segment. It's one of my favorite segments.
This is going to do big numbers, Dan.
I think so. And particularly if we could speak Spanish with an
here we go.
amiga que bella. Oh, boy. Now, who is this young lady?
As you know, as a screencast readers know, this is Salma Hayek. I mean, come on. She just turned, her birthday was just last weekend, I believe 57. I've lost track. She's in her 50s. Ageless wonder. Whenever we do Salma Hayek content, goes absolutely bonkers. Good for her, Dan. I'm calling on these women to quit with the whole yoga stuff. I'm calling on the women to stop with the fake outrage over, politics. Get back to the bread and butter, Dan. These women were the heroes of the 90s and early 2000s. Salma Hayek has stayed true to her fans. She stayed out of politics. She stayed out of making candles for her girlfriends for candle nights at their houses. This is Salma Hayek 101. She goes to the ocean. She knows how to produce content.
She does. And you know what? That's a skill that I wish more women that look like Salma Hayek had, knowing how to produce content. I got to tell you, her quick roll, and it was a very quick roll, in, what was it? What the hell is it's one of my favorite shows, 30 Rock, was unbelievable. Even in a nurse's gown, She was outstanding. And don't call me a pig, people. I'm celebrating the beauty of older women today, as is the great Joe Kinsey.
Yep.
Joe, what else do we got? Who else do we got?
Well, I'm not in control of this, so let's see what they do here. Let's see what they throw on the screen.
See, our guys are so excited by what's going on here.
Yeah. Dan, this is great. We always love, it's football season, so we're happy, right? And then we come up with these names on the back of jerseys, like West Virginia once had Dingle and Barry on their team, and they sat on the sideline together, and it was Dingle, Barry. Now you have Ham and Bacon. I think this is Iowa State. I mean, this is just great college football. You jump on these bandwagons of these names that just match up, and we have a laugh, Dan. That's what it's all about this time of year.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Diehard Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. Chat, is it jam-packed today?
It's firing on all cylinders, like most days.
You can join us on YouTube. Chad's in the chat right now.
Really,
search out OutKick, hit subscribe.
When I brought up the movie The Program, that really sparked a flame with everyone, and there's a lot of references to sports movies of the 90s.
Do you think the fact of the day from Davey in a moment is space related? Is it time? The
alien
speed of light?
Related with this news out of Mexico? I don't know. Davey has been known to throw us a curveball with his fact of the day.
He'll do it right now. It's time for Let's Get Weird with Davey Hudson.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Talking now.
Guys, not going to go super in depth into the fact of the day. I'll pose it to you as a question, but I'm just kind of curious if you know it. This country offered Albert Einstein the presidency.
This country offered Albert Einstein the presidency?
Yes. Now, he ultimately declined.
I don't know how you would offer to run for president or offered him the presidency.
Offered him the presidency.
By this country, you mean the United States of America, right?
No. It's a country.
Okay.
But yeah,
I thought it was like a fact or fiction question. Like this country offered him like.
No, I was going to let you guess of like which country in the world.
I'm going to guess Liechtenstein.
You got an answer?
Let's just say Germany.
It was Israel.
Oh, okay.
Because Israel, as you know, formed right
I
around the time.
I was thinking of Oppenheimer.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's right.
I was thinking Oppenheimer too, and I keep thinking the scene where he's by the pond.
Yes.
In Princeton, when I was hearing the name Albert Einstein, I thought you were saying fact or fiction. Was he offered the presidency? And I'm like, did I misread every history book ever, and that we could offer the presidency to someone?
What was their reasoning for that, David? Do you know?
As to why they wanted him, a brilliant mind to kind of come in as this country's getting up and going. I think it made sense. It was somebody that was well known, could probably put them on the map as far as, hey, we have one of the greatest thinkers of our. You could say more than just the century, but of what we know.
Yeah.
In all of mankind's smartest people, he's one of those guys. So I don't hate the idea. I think that's actually a pretty good idea, and I thought that was interesting. I did find that out recently after seeing Oppenheimer. Kind of did a little bit of a deep dive there.
Imagine the leader of the country doing equations and trying to explain things that he's figured out.
I am. I've gone back to the library here recently and been trying to read many books, and American Prometheus, which is the inspiration to Oppenheimer.
Card catalog.
Yeah, I go through now the computer card catalog. Today I had to look for something in 943-UA. In there. It was a book about, I just read a book on Thomas Jefferson, and now I'm into the Lewis and Clark expedition.
Yeah.
Based on reading that.
I'm reading a book on that right now.
I'm trying to start the Stephen Ambrose book on Lewis and Clark and their expedition and the notes from it. So that's my next project. I wanted to read American Prometheus, which is the inspiration to Oppenheimer. No surprise, but my local library, it has sold out for a year. based on that movie and people now wanting to read the book. So I'm not able to check that one out. Did you guys check out the aliens that were revealed by the Mexican government today?
I have not.
I saw the image, but as it relates to what information was presented outside of just because this was presented to Mexico's Congress by a journalist, that's the extent of my knowledge on the situation.
It's the plot to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the way they described it. It was found in Peru.
Oh, I have seen this photo.
It's thousands of years old, they say. It's at least 70% non-human, this creature. It has 3 fingers. It looks just like the aliens from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I don't buy it in the least, but I am a little bit weirded out that an actual government agency of another country is presenting this like it's real.
It looks like the corpse of E.T.
It's also filmed in a very cinematic, dramatic way in the courtroom. They're like unveiling it, and the camera has to go up and over the casket or whatever it's in to reveal the alien remains. Well, I don't buy it.
While I believe there is life outside of just our planet, I think it's something we've not even been able to comprehend what it would look like. Because like all these ideas are just coming from stuff we have an idea of what they would resemble. So I don't even think what life outside of here would look like is something we can even draw and people be like, yeah, I believe that's what it would ultimately end up looking.
Oh, and these remains too, I think, is it just really a small human from, ancient
it looks like
times?
It's carved out of rock or
yeah, like an old statue.
Yeah.
They made? I don't know. I'm not buying it. Hutton, you brought up the great example of all UFO sightings happen in just certain parts of the world.
The vast majority of them.
Like you never see it. It doesn't happen in Africa.
Vast majority.
It's all in parts of Europe or North America. That's wherever UFOs.
The reported sightings on the map, the heat map.
I'm not buying it. All right,
vast
Davey.
majority is North America.
On to Let's Get Weird. Sorry to derail you.
No, you're good. The first story I want to get into today is the WNBA announced their comeback player of the year, and it was Brittany Griner. She was actually comeback player of the year. I just wanted to bring this up to go back to the trade that initially happened. When I was first thinking about it, I didn't see it, but I did find a graphic that, we had it created. But it was, you remember when Sam Darnold was out with mono and the Jets put up that graphic like out indefinitely, mononucleosis?
Yep.
You remember that? Well, I had this one created. I wish that would have came out. It just says out indefinitely, held captive in a Russian prison cell. But as I go and I look at the stats, she actually had a pretty good stat line for the year, 17 points a game, 6 rebounds. The team did finish dead last. But, if I wanted to revisit the trade, so I went and I was looking for the stats of Victor Bout. And Tyler, if you will go to the next one, you actually can't find any stats for him. So there were no hits for that. But then I was like, well, maybe it's under the Merchant of Death. So then I tried another search. But unfortunately, on Basketball Reference, there weren't any hits for that as well. So we won the trade. Obviously, you can tell.
The Phoenix Mercury, you're saying, definitely won this trade.
Yes.
With Victor Bout. I didn't realize that Brittany Griner was 6'9" until seeing that graphic that you popped up there, Davey. I thought more like 6'5", 6'6". I didn't think 6'9".
Tall glass of water.
Yeah.
I would have guessed, like, if we had to guess, I would say 6'7", to what you're saying.
What was the latest report that I read on this where the Russians said good luck when they handed her off to American authorities? I just saw a headline that said Russians wished Brittany Griner good luck as they released her back to American authorities.
The other they're very friendly after the trade, right?
I don't know if it was like a good luck, your country sucks and it's worse than here.
It's like,
or
she's your problem now?
Good luck against the Connecticut Sun this year in the WNBA non-playoffs that they didn't make.
You have to name her comeback player of the year because no one knows who the comeback player of the year is if they just named it to the other woman. No one pays attention to that headline. The WNBA, the last time I remember it being referenced was with either her initial game or it was with the reports that there was discrimination based on a pregnancy. That was how many months ago?
Well, and also remember the teammate was saying that not enough fans are showing up to support Brittany Griner.
But
was
again,
another headline.
Griner's the headline of the league, and no one can even I have no idea who the other comeback player of the year is.
I think Candace Parker won it one year coming back from pregnancy. Had a child, then came back and won player. That's the last time I've heard of a WNBA comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
Nafisa Collier was the other person, and she also had a child, and so was comeback player of the year after giving birth. So
okay,
that was your point was spot on. We got to give it to Brittany Griner just so we can get that headline out there. But I just wanted to update people on the trade. Our next story, Hutton, talked about it on the other side, but you guys ever had like your friends come over for a cookout, and then you have like a friendly game of basketball or volleyball, or even just playing a little bit of croquet?
Yeah,
just break out in the backyard.
Been known to play a little croquet at the Withrow house.
So
we got a set.
Moving on up, though, Davey and Chad in the wealthy neighborhoods with croquet.
It's not the version we play is not for the upper crust of society. It's a little bit more.
It was either tossing
redneck croquet,
baseball around, or it was badminton. It wasn't volleyball.
It's a good one. Well,
we play a lot of burnout. Just throw the football as hard as you can at the face of someone across from you, see if they can catch it.
In Milford, Massachusetts, we've actually had one of those backyard parties get busted for an illegal volleyball gambling ring.
So
is this just them betting on their matches?
Is it like oh wow, looks like it's kind of next level.
Yes.
It's in the street.
So they're bringing in ringers to come in and compete, and then people are betting on the action.
The net is connected to light poles across from on each side of the street.
There would be teams travel in from out of state to compete here. I think the farthest away was in Florida, which will be something with our next story. But it reads that the police are estimating about $1 million changed hands over a year for these rings. And it was one of those things, too, where people were constantly calling the police for noise complaints coming for their neighbors, which I can imagine if you have like all these people just kind of waiting. But I just never heard of anything like
this.
It's
on concrete. They're playing volleyball on concrete.
Yeah, and
tough to go dive for a bump to get it to a set on concrete.
You do it for a certain amount of coin, Jeff.
Yeah, and it's funny too because
with no flesh.
They said that this happened about like a block away from where the local police station was, and they weren't able to really spot this out. Kind of reminded me, like Bin Laden was like a mile down the road of where the Pakistani version of West Point was. It's just like hidden in plain sight.
I started watching this special ops series on Netflix last night, just the first 15 minutes of like the original spy plane footage of Bin Laden after 9/11. And it's crazy how much we've advanced in technology since then with satellite images from space are clearer than what we saw on a plane, a spy plane that went right over the head of Bin Laden, which I have no idea how they could tell it was him at one point. We had a bunch of family volleyball games, still do on the 4th of July, but our version of it, we don't bet on it. It's like we abide by no actual rules of volleyball.
Loser has to clean, take out the trash.
There are guys just going up and catching the ball in the air and like trying to throw it down at someone. There are people going through the net. You're chest bumping the opponent on the other side of the net through the net. It's more of a full contact, body blow type version of volleyball, which I'm guessing that's what they played on pavement in this illegal ring.
Yeah, I will try and see if we can get an update on what actually happens to the people that were organizing this.
They take down their net.
They'll probably get charged with a few
All right,
things.
game's over, guys.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah, Uncle Sam's going to want a piece of that. But our next story, guys, comes to us. We got a Florida man story. This guy, his name, make sure I get this right, Mr. Bellucci is what we will call him, Reza Bellucci. He tried to run to London from Florida. Now, that might sound weird, but what he did was he created this hamster-like contraption that had all these buoys. You can see it on your screen here, and was pretty much set sail. I guess there's no sails on it, but set off.
It was afloat.
Yeah, trying to run on this contraption all the way to London.
So it looks like a shark cage with flotation buoys, as you mentioned.
I wonder what the supplies were inside the contraption.
He did have food. The article I did not see list how long his rations would have lasted, but he ultimately was found 70 miles off the coast of Tybee Island, Georgia, and the Coast Guard had to bring him back. He did not want to be brought back, but this happened, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the most recent hurricane that was coming, but they were like,
because the hurricane was coming, they had to get him out of the water.
Yeah, they're like, dude, you're going to die. He's like, I know what I signed up for. I'm fine. But there was obstruction of justice, and because they said, no, we're going to take you off, he made a bomb threat. So that also didn't help his case there. And he's a guy that's pretty much just admitted, like, I want to try this. He's done it before, and he was trying to go from
How do you make a bomb threat in the middle of the ocean?
He's like, I got a bomb on here. Yeah, it's just.
It seems like a good way to smuggle drugs or people into the country.
He also threatened to kill himself, according to reports. So
Cuba's
you
only
have
like
to be out of your mind to try this.
Cuba's like 70 miles, I think, from Miami. To go there and across the ocean? Could this be a contraption? Because if you saw this in your Coast Guard, don't you just assume someone's smuggling something?
So he did
Someone
this
that's
without
running
people knowing?
in one of these contraptions?
So no one knew he was trying this?
No.
I mean, he might have told like a friend or two, but
I kind of want people to get behind it and go fund me this thing, and I want to see him try again.
One time he tried to go up to New York, but he ended up 30 miles south because of the currents.
If we had a daily drone shot of him in the ocean trying to make it, I would watch this every day.
David Blaine is trying to do this now.
But he's going to do it underwater the entire time, holding his breath.
Coming up, our NFL picks for the weekend, elimination style, going into Thursday Night Football, and we'll discuss offensive and defensive coordinators.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And
I mean,
what he reposted,
he
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here for the Wednesday edition of Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Glad you're with us here across the OutKick Network. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel while you're there. You can search out OutKick if you're not there currently. Get everything on demand, all the shows across OutKick, and you can ring the bell and you can be alerted with the alarm anytime.
Ring that championship
silent
bell.
alarm, the update. Anytime we go live, you can get the notification across the all the shows that we have. We're live 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern each weekday afternoon. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. They've got the fall flavors, the autumn flavors, Chad. You're big on the Christmas eggnog flavor, right?
I'm more of a holiday flavor guy, but
The peppermints.
I'm a sucker for pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
This is noted. I've had some pumpkin spice today, in fact, multiple times, 3 times to be exact. I'm amazed at the amount of people right outside of our studio door here at 6 and Peabody that want to pose in front of the different flavors of moonshine.
The kaleidoscope.
This is a
of
very,
moonshine.
very popular photo spot happening right outside of our studio where they just have to get a shot with all of the mason jars of moonshine. It is quite pleasing to the eye when you see that kaleidoscope of color.
I love the fall flavors. Pumpkin spice. You've got I'm talking about the moonshines. You've got there's a blackberry that's really good. And then there's like a maple concoction that they have that's great. I miss the maple macchiatos. Davey, I don't know if you've had this. There's a Chad,
sounds delicious.
There's a flavor. It's not caramel. There's another flavor that's added to the macchiato at your favorite coffee shop or whatever. Back in the day, whenever I'm living out of someone's dining room, I had a bed in someone's dining room. That was my favorite drink ever, maple macchiato.
See, I've had caramel macchiatos a number of times. I've never had a maple macchiato.
And there's like a mocha.
But now you've got me interested.
Yeah.
Maple macchiato.
Yeah, it's not anywhere now.
Hutton, I like all things fall except for ragweed. Because this is ragweed season, which kills my allergies, especially now that I know this drug doesn't even work. I'm going to continue to crush Big Pharma as long as I can on this. That they have just produced for years and years, not just one. There's like 45 over-the-counter drugs that use something that is completely useless. And the Food and Drug Administration just found this out.
All right, let's tie this in.
Watch Primary Complaint for today to know exactly what I'm talking about. But this story blew my mind. It's also completely predictable.
Same can go for Keith
I
Olbermann.
wonder why I'm always congested, why I'm always sneezing. I've been taking this allergy medication for years. Oh, it doesn't work at all. Well, that's why.
Keith Olbermann probably believes it does
because
of the swipe he took at Aaron Rodgers after Rodgers is done for the year. He's carted off. And Olbermann, in his typical troll style, hops on X and retweets or reposts an update on the fact that it could be either Liz Frank foot injury, ankle sprain, or possibly even Achilles. Similar to J.K. Dobbins and his injury on Sunday. Olbermann responds and says, another hashtag sudden Liz Frank due to failure to vaccinate. Keith Olbermann at his best, or we would say worse.
He had another one too. And Davey, you may have seen exactly what it said, but it was reposting an X post that basically said, anyone would feel bad for Aaron Rodgers because of this happening, 4 games into the season. And then he put something like, define anyone or anybody. He said something along the lines
except for
of,
him and Hub Arkish.
Yeah, he's saying basically, no, there's a lot of people applauding this, and I'm one of them. I love seeing guys season end because of injury.
The Jets tweeted out, not the way any of us wanted it to go, but we know the commitment you've made to this team will continue to impact us moving forward. Get well soon at Aaron Rodgers 12. Keith just quote tweeted it, define any.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude's a loser. I mean, let's just call it what it is at this point. When you're applauding anyone to be injured or someone that loses their season because of injury.
Trying to claim karma.
Yeah, I mean,
on something that's,
what is that? Are you going to win hearts and minds over to your side, Keith, when you behave that way? Is that what's going to win back America for your righteous cause, applauding a man who has no Achilles tendon and saying it's a good thing? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Look, and if someone's going to applaud Megan Rapinoe getting hurt because they disagree with her political stance, or take that moment to say, "Oh well, this is what you get." I mean, that's awful too.
Yeah,
you're not going to if you're truly in the business of if you're a true believer out there, and whatever your cause is, right, left, middle, extreme, one end or the other, if you're a true believer and you believe in your cause. And you also think that, you know how I'm going to get people on my side and convince them that I'm right and I'm on the side of moral rectitude? I'm going to applaud a man that's injured and out for the season. That'll show them. That'll pull people to my side. You are an idiot. All you are doing is driving people away from you. Even those that might agree with you, Keith, they're probably sitting there saying, yeah, it's a bit too far. Let's not applaud a man while he's injured and out for the season. That's not the route we want to go down. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
It's pathetic of Keith Olbermann, and it's become way too predictable.
That's what we've come to expect there. I was surprised, as well as with Micah Parsons here. By the way,
also before Micah Parsons, quick retrospective. How great was Keith Olbermann on SportsCenter back in the day? Have you seen a crazier downturn than his greatness with Dan Patrick? And as a kid, I would watch those highlights and think, man, this guy is awesome. He loves sports, and he's just like I am. And now I watch him celebrating Aaron Rodgers going down because he's mad at him because he didn't get a vaccination.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to see what's happened. Anyway, that was just a quick aside.
You're right. I mean,
I just wanted to look back quickly on how good it was back in the day.
I miss MTV when MTV was MTV, TRL. And I miss SportsCenter when it was SportsCenter with Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann.
But also, knowing the first time you saw that highlight was the first time you knew about that game happening and what went down.
Yeah. Now, this makes me feel super old based on how Olbermann's rocking the stash and the glasses.
Yeah, and that tie.
This looks like
What is on his tie? I wish we could zoom in on that. Can you see, Davey?
Is it a rocket ship or something?
Is it like it looks like Jiminy Cricket?
I mean,
is he rocking a Jiminy Cricket tie?
This was taken from a 90s TV to where it's already so blurry, you're not going to be able to make it out.
Another one of those images that you look back. If you go back and look at just SD, standard def, I think, did I ever watch television?
Let me tie in the TV. This part, I saw something over the weekend. It was an old VHS. Maybe you guys have seen this on the algorithm of YouTube. There was a VHS tape that resurfaced. It was like, it was 99 New Year's Eve, going to 2000. And this guy bought a television and recorded his friend's reaction when they first saw it in the basement in the man cave. In the video in real time, they were asked how much it cost. He said $5,000 for the TV. This thing, it is your typical, I mean, it's probably $150 now at Best Buy.
But it's a big screen. It's tiny.
It was tiny compared to what we would look at as big screen now.
Yeah.
And the base of it, it's still, I mean, it's a flat screen for that era. But what that dude paid, I'm thinking, man, I forgot how much televisions were going for then and how much you would brag about if you had an upgrade on the screen size.
I have never purchased a television at the right time. I've always done it when we're at the absolute peak of how much televisions cost.
We want the 84-inch or whatever it is.
But now you can get an 84-inch for a very reasonable price, I feel like. But I'm not buying a TV right now. When I decide to buy a TV, materials will be out or something will be going on, and it'll be so expensive. I remember hunting that $5,000 store. My first television purchase, I think I spent an entire summer.
The guys went crazy over this, by the way.
I spent an entire summer working at Polo Ralph Lauren outlet store.
Folding shirts.
To go back to Knoxville, Tennessee, to the house I was renting with other guys, and I bought a flat screen TV. The only thing flat about this TV was the very front of it was flat and not like the old cylindrical type screen.
Yeah.
The back of it.
It was more of a rectangle than a square.
It must have weighed 500 pounds.
Super heavy.
This TV.
It's still.
And I bet I spent $3,000 for.
To 2000 roughly, and his friends were going nuts too. we could circulate that. And
we need to
show
see
a photo.
that. Paul on the YouTube chat says the story we're talking about, Hutton. Joe Kinsey wrote about this guy.
Oh, he did?
That's
probably where I saw it. Yeah, through
it's
OutKick
probably
Twitter.
on.
It's great. It's great.
He's got a great morning screen caps.
So
every morning.
I too was surprised, like Micah Parsons, who he's a full-time pass rusher now. They're not moving him around. And he and the Dallas Cowboys defense sacked Daniel Jones 7 times. We know the score, 40-0. And here is Micah Parsons on the Edge with Micah Parsons podcast with his reaction when the Giants decided to leave Daniel Jones in the game in the 4th.
It's called protecting your guy. You know, something I thought the Giants should have done. I don't think Daniel Jones should have been in that game in the 4th quarter. I thought they should have protected him and pulled him out. And barring injury, their season will be over without Daniel Jones. The Bengals did the smart decision by pulling Joe Burrow, saying, hey, we're going to submit, we're going to take our loss, and we're going to move on the next week and get better. That's the best thing you can do. I do not agree with Daniel Jones staying out there into that last drive. I thought that was wrong. I thought it was deceiving. That's your franchise quarterback, and he's out there with the backup offensive line still getting sacked and hit. I just didn't understand. Maybe it was a, prove-it moment by the Giants. I have no idea. A learning lesson. Who knows? But I thought Daniel Jones should have got pulled out. So it technically is not benching.
I agree with him based on the contract they gave him this offseason and the investment made. And the excuse that Brian Daboll used was they left him in to get something positive going. And Daniel Jones postgame also said that he was lobbying to stay in, and it wasn't even a question on whether or not he was going to come to the sideline. But Parsons is right. I mean, they were teeing off on him. And you leave him in and he gets dinged or concussed or, injured. You have an issue at that point. Given the score and how that game was going, you get something positive going this week whenever you visit the Arizona Cardinals. That's when you get something positive going, which we expect will happen, but we didn't expect the mercy rule. And at some point, you have to use and enforce your own mercy rule by keeping your starting quarterback healthier than the week 1 performance where you leave him in for the full game, given the score.
I mean, can we just take a moment and just ask the question to the entire league? Can we please have more of this? More guys with Micah Parsons' personality having weekly podcasts where they're this honest? I mean, I'm sure many members of the Dallas Cowboys organization hates this, especially considering they have to play the New York Giants again. But what an unbelievably raw, honest take that is in no way demeaning to his opponent.
No, at all.
Is actually somewhat sympathetic to an opposing quarterback in that situation, but that sparks some conversation and interest where it wouldn't be there otherwise. So hats off to Micah Parsons and the Cowboys for allowing this to happen. Hutton, we don't get this level of honesty from players across the NFL during the season especially. This is terrific.
Yeah.
I wish every team had one guy that was as good as Micah Parsons is at talking about issues and doing things like this, and that was this honest, that could do a weekly show, that you could pull the best clips from to get that insider perspective and actual honest opinion about what's going on,
and
like we just heard from Micah Parsons.
Superstar level that can do it, right?
Yeah.
And
I think every team has a really good player
Yeah.
that people know that have that personality.
Yeah.
I think it sort of coincides with being a really good player at times. Is you're a little bit more outspoken.
Taylor Lewan busting with the boys. He didn't do that during the season. They would take things.
but a really good player that also had a big personality.
No doubt.
No doubt. You wanted to hear from. I want more Taylor Lewans. I want more Micah Parsons.
For instance.
Coaches don't.
A great
but
quote,
I want it.
Great quote this week, a subtle jab at the Pittsburgh Steelers, was Trent Williams, star left tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. He's asked about how efficient the offense was and how quickly they were going back out. And he just quickly took a jab, a slight one, and said, it got to a point on the sideline where we were hoping that the Steelers would at least get a first down so we could get some rest as an offense. That's awesome. Like that, I want more of that, and far too often we're seeing locker rooms closed for the big portion of any media availability that can be had across the league for local outlets to get some one-on-ones and interviews like this that we're referring to with Williams. And also players are now headed to podcasts with other players instead of doing the one-on-one features. They're just telling their own story and their version or their recollection on their own instead of letting some other outlet do it, which is also smart.
I just think that it's terrific. I heard that, and I'm like, this isn't harming anyone. This isn't doing anything wrong by the league or his team or anything else. But it's entertaining. It's insightful.
You've got the Kelsey brothers doing one.
It's great.
Which is good.
I want more of it. I don't need every player in the league suddenly hosting a podcast weekly to get their thoughts of the game off their chest or any of that. I want one team court-appointed big personality that has opinions that can host a podcast with someone for all 32 teams that can give us material like Micah Parsons provided. That's what I want.
Chad,
Is it too big of a dream, Hutton? Am I dreaming too big?
No. Well, every team, if they did that, they would put it on their site, and it would be...
Example, Mike Vrabel of the Titans isn't going to allow that.
Not
there are
during the
coaches
season.
in the league that are just never going to allow that. You know who allows that? Jerry Jones, who is the boss of all with the Cowboys.
And Jerry Jones allows criticism on his own site about his own franchise and team. They go in if things are bad. It's not bad right now with the Dallas franchise. We discuss what we expect from week 2 and who we're taking in the elimination poll.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see, like, senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their own politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro. There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow rolls on. Fast-paced show today. Got some NFL picks straight ahead. The gun show is walking around randomly, picking out some moonshine here.
It's always a good day when you see the gun show, but I was just a very unexpected visit. Just kind of popped by the door and
just gave the old hello.
Yeah,
Tom.
he's really rocking that Old Smoky, that orange and white Old Smoky hat. Every time I see him now in a video, anywhere he goes, he's got that hat on. I like it. I approve.
Looks good.
Looks great.
Are you buying the wager that Clay is telling us to make on Florida plus the points at 6.5 against Tennessee?
Oh, I would take Florida money line.
Really?
Personally.
Is that? Are you hedging your happiness though by doing that?
I just I don't know. We don't know yet if Tennessee's any good, right? Based on what we've seen, I just think that they looked okay against Virginia. Defense did their job. Offensively, they haven't had to show much. And then when they tried to show something against an FCS opponent, they couldn't do it. So then they just went back to, well, we're running for 9 yards of carry, so we'll just do that against this team. So they haven't had to show anything yet. I don't know that I'm predicting Florida to win the game. I'm just saying the money that I would put on it with the plus odds would be Florida money line at plus 6.5 at home.
And they won by, what, 6 or 4 last year?
I also think this is an enormous game for Billy Napier. Enormous game. So you cannot downplay that. Not that it's not a big game for Tennessee and Josh Heupel. I'm not trying to underscore what they're trying to do this year and how important it is for them. It feels like it's almost it's the crossroads of Billy Napier in his early tenure at Florida. Because of the way they looked at Utah.
If you look at the top 25 right now, no Clemson, no TCU, no Florida, no Cincinnati. It's odd. If you would have told me that going into week 3, I don't buy it. And Clemson's fall was fast.
Yeah, I read a fact that this is the first time in a Tennessee-Florida game that Tennessee has been ranked and Florida has not been ranked since 1971.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind, they didn't play annually until 1992 when they split into divisions. So it was like a once every 5 or 6 year game before that. But still, 1971 was the last time Tennessee's ranked 11th, Florida unranked in this game, that's been the case.
And Iowa's about to drop out.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah,
they're hanging on to the 25th spot right now in the AP. And there's a big gap between. By the way, the 26 is, I believe, Clemson receiving votes there, but there is a gap between the votes to get in and not.
Yeah, Davey lets us know 38-33. Tennessee beat Florida a year ago. I thought Florida played maybe their best offensive game of the year against Tennessee a year ago. Anthony Richardson was terrific, kept them in it. That game was in Knoxville, though. Tennessee hasn't won in Gainesville in 20 years. And this feels like, I'm not going to say it's do or die for Billy Napier, but you start 1-2 and you lose at home to Tennessee, breaking a 20-year dry spell for the Vols in Gainesville. That's not good, even though it's just the start of year 2 for Billy Napier. So I think this game is very important for him. We'll see. I also think what Graham Mertz has shown against Power 5 competition over the course of his career at Wisconsin and now one game against Utah has not been very good and has thrown a lot of interceptions. I think Tennessee's defense is better. This could very well be a low-scoring game. This could be a defensive battle, believe it or not.
Be careful what you wish for fans that eat their own, and it's every fan base in the SEC, Big Ten for that matter. Get rid of Billy Napier, and you're back to where you were before you hired Billy Napier, with coaches turning down jobs there with Anthony Richardson.
No, I'm with you. And also, they've got a really good recruiting class right now for next year. I mean, Florida fans should want Billy Napier to do well. That needs to be the goal. Like, let's win some big games and keep this guy around and see what happens. That's got to be the thinking. But, look, again, I don't think this is, if he loses, he's not going to make it. I don't believe that. I just think it's very important for him personally. It's important for Tennessee's season to go there and win this game. I don't know that it's as important personally for Josh Heupel's security as it is for Billy Napier.
But it's important to follow up what you've been doing and building and the consistency to go and win there.
I've said all
against
along,
this Florida team.
This year to me will define his floor, not a ceiling, because you're going from the perfect leader and quarterback for that system to a guy who physically might be the right guy.
And a couple of receivers,
but
too.
I'm not so sure is the perfect quarterback for the system. We'll see. We'll see on Saturday.
Chad, we were not perfect in our NFL Eliminator picks from last week.
Because of me.
You were the one loss. You went with the Vikings at home over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would have done the same if I was picking 4 or 5 games in this.
No, I had the third pick, right?
You were second. You were the second pick.
But did someone claim? I feel like I would have picked.
I took the Commanders.
Yeah, I thought you were going to actually take the Ravens, and then I was going to actually pick the Vikings.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you
I think the only reason I didn't take the Ravens, good job, Davey, picking the Ravens, was because I didn't want to waste the Ravens this early.
Yeah, so NFL Eliminator picks, we're only picking one. We pick a team one time throughout the season. Davey, the rules have changed a bit, though. We're going with double elimination.
Correct.
Because we expect Chad to win this week.
Yes. So each person now has 2 losses, except Chad does have the one. Guys, I'll go ahead and tell you the strategy. I mean, it's the NFL. We love it because of the parity, and on any given Sunday, you never know what's going to happen. I would not look too far about playing ahead in this game as far as 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. I've learned from doing something similar in the past. You take it 1 week at a time, and you go from there.
So I had the first pick last week. Davey, you have the floor. You had the last pick.
Yes. So this week I am going with the Buffalo Bills, and you might be saying, well, they're coming off a short week. They've already lost. They might not look that great. I can't see Josh Allen putting forward 2 bad performances in a row. They will be hosting the Raiders at home. While Jimmy G and the Raiders looked salvageable, I did not think that Broncos defense was what we had seen in the past. I also am not anticipating Jacoby Myers playing this week. I know he had a great game for them, but basically due to concussion protocol, I just can't see him getting cleared. I might be wrong on that. The Bills, 8.5-point favorite, but I just take them winning at home, money line, and I'm going to lock in the Buffalo Bills.
You know what people are going to start saying if Josh Allen performs poorly again this week? Needs to get his mind off those commercials and get into playing football and quarterback again. Way too many commercials this offseason. I can't escape Josh Allen because I can't escape the Sanders family on Saturdays with commercials.
Think about if he accepted the second season of quarterback.
Are they doing that, by the way?
He turned it. Peyton says the Omaha Productions can't find enough quarterbacks to do it.
Lame. I'm sorry. But that's just so lame.
But instead of doing the commercials, which were filmed in the offseason, it would be what was filmed in real time during all of this.
There's a
during
delay
his
on
picks.
that.
But also, he's turning the football over on the regular all the time. He's like Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I mean, I'm halfway kidding that's having any effect on him, but that's going to be the talk in some circles.
And the talk will be, you're not going to.
Maybe you should win a Super Bowl before you get in all these commercials and get all these endorsement deals.
Buffalo is Davey's pick. Chad, you're up next.
I mean, look, guys, I'm 0-1 in a survivor pool. That's tough to accomplish, right? The goal when you get into these things is let's make it halfway to the season. Should be some easy pickings early on. Vikings made it very difficult for me. I'll tell you someone who's going to make it very easy on everyone this year. It's the team that's trying to lose every game so they can get the number 1 and number 2 pick. It's the Arizona Cardinals, quarterbacked by one of my favorite all-time college quarterbacks, one Joshua Dobbs. but he's not going to win NFL games. Give me the Giants. I know they lost 40-0 in week 1. Don't care. That's going to give them even more motivation. They're going out to the desert. They're a 5.5-point favorite over the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals go to 0-2. Giants go to 1-1. Give me the Giants and the perfect medicine for what ails them after that beat down at home by the Cowboys. That is the Arizona Cardinals.
You're right. You mentioned last segment we were discussing what Michael Parsons was saying, and Brian Daboll said they were trying to get something positive going, is why they left in Daniel Jones. This is the week where you can get something positive going. This is the week to turn things around. Could you do the reverse blowout in this game?
I think you could get
go from losing by 40 to winning by 40?
This is like the college game, when the team loses the tough rivalry game and they come back home and it's homecoming and they've got a terrible opponent.
Texas A&M who
and
lost
they take
to Miami,
out all the anger. Yeah.
They now host Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah, that very well said. The Arizona Cardinals are the UL Monroe of the NFL. So when you go and you play Miami or you play a good team and you lose, you get all that frustration. You work all week to just take it out on someone, and that someone happens to be UL Monroe, or in this case, the Arizona Cardinals.
Maybe I'm foolish. I don't think I am. I was stunned that I had this team available. I know that they play the Cardinals next week, but this week the Dallas Cowboys are hosting the New York Jets. And the focus is on the fact that Aaron Rodgers isn't there after 4 snaps, and that Zach Wilson, who was the quarterback with a winning record last season, that they sat down because he lacked accountability and leadership. And ownership and GM acknowledged that they were a veteran quarterback away from being a team, being the team.
Not only just being the team, being a team.
Being a playoff
We're
caliber,
not a team.
Super Bowl expectation type team. This is the worst possible matchup for Wilson to come off of the way they won, getting thrown in there as the backup, to then go face the Dallas Cowboys defense in their home opener at AT&T Stadium. Dallas is my pick this week. I'm taking the Cowboys. I won't be able to use them again, but I don't think I'll need to based on some other opportunities that the Cardinals will be facing throughout the season.
I would just say I was tempted to go with the Cowboys, but I just feel like it's one of those games to where it's everything stacked against the Jets to where they might just have that little bit of magic left in them. They go in there and
the Bills have the Raiders, right?
Yes.
That's a tough first pick by you.
Yeah.
You're very confident in the fact that the Raiders are not.
It's
the Raiders were a lie in week 1.
It's not so much the Raiders aren't as good. I just don't think the Bills are going to perform that bad 2 weeks in a row. And they'll be at home. I trust Bills Mafia to propel them to a win. But if you're Dallas, you're feeling so confident right now. I don't know if that could possibly be something to where they're like, this is an easy win. They kind of take it easier on the Jets as far as preparation, knowing Aaron Rodgers isn't there. Plus, they're having to change everything they did from a scouting department standpoint. It's like Peyton on.
They get to face Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I know, but it's in. Well, kind of tease that into a pick your poison, but.
Hey, quickly, Matthew Stafford's going to be in season 2 of quarterback.
Good.
This was 9 hours ago. It's a report from one of the sites that covers the Rams. NFL Network camera people had him mic'd up, and he's doing things during week 1 against the Seahawks for being featured in season 2. I don't know who the other 2 quarterbacks are or if they're doing 3 quarterbacks, but Matthew Stafford will be one of them.
I've just seen quarterbacks turn it down when asked about it.
This according to Turf Show Times. Okay? So take it or leave it, but that's what someone in the YouTube chat.
That's cool.
Thank you, Jordan Sims, who pointed that out, and I just looked it up, and there is reports out as of 9 hours ago that Stafford is taking part in it right now. All right, Davey.
I was just going to say, with Zach Wilson coming in there, I don't know, man. The Jets at least have a really good defense, and the Cowboys, their offense never really got to get going because the defense and special teams were scoring points for them so fast.
From someone who has Dak Prescott on their fantasy team, I can vouch for that. He did nothing this week in a 40-0 win because he didn't have to.
And I'm again, my pick with Dallas here is just I'm not really betting on Prescott because he's going against a very stout defense in New York. I'm betting against Zach Wilson, and just against the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys could do it again, create their own points off turnovers, short fields. Dallas is going to crush it unless we see a big injury to Parsons on turf. That'll be it. Chad, are
we going to do Pick Your Poison now?
What? Pick Your Poison coming up
Okay.
in the final segment. The parlay hit, right? The
Yes.
DraftKings Never Forget parlay. That it was extremely tone deaf. It was 3 New York teams: New York Mets to win, Jets to win, and then the Yankees to win. And the Yankees game was pushed back due to weather, so they didn't play until yesterday. But the parlay hits in the DraftKings tone deaf.
So even though they had to
Forget
apologize for having this parlay, they do still pay out everyone who bet on it, right?
That's unless I'm
How
not
many
sure.
hours was it up? Do we know that they actually had it on the site
I think it was around 2 to 3
as a promotion?
But the only thing I don't know is if they just automatically refunded people that placed the bet, or if it was something they let carry out.
I'd like to know stats on who all played it. I don't want to know like personally who
paying it
played. I
out.
want to know how many people played it.
Yeah, they're paying out. DraftKings was also refunding any prop bets made prior to the start of the season on the Jets with Aaron Rodgers included, based on the injury.
That's nice of them.
FanDuel did not.
Not nice of them.
They pointed to regulations and the fact that it was a preseason
Oh,
bet.
yeah. You can always point to regulations as the reasons why.
DraftKings is refunding those bets.
Yep.
I feel like the guy played, started, and you made the wager. It's a bet. It's a gamble.
Yeah. So they call it gambling.
Pick your poison. Quarterback with offensive coordinator. Not good options. Next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And
I mean,
what he reposted
did
and then how he did it.
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
I love when a plan comes together, and it certainly did for that bar in Milwaukee that had the offer about Rodgers and when the Jets won or lost. Hot Mike with Hunter with
Well, it came together for the bar.
That's what I mean. And the Milwaukee bar pulled in 6 times their normal revenue because the idea there is when the Jets lose, you have the bar pay their tabs. And the tabs were so astronomical. And, of course, the Jets won that game. So when Rodgers went out, if you're at that bar that night, the prop was, hey, if the Jets lose.
You're thinking this is a slam dunk.
Yeah,
Jets are going down.
And it was 13-3 at one point.
13-3 at halftime.
And the Jets
Feeling
win on
great.
that punt return. And 6 times the normal revenue. So you had the fans there that are just paying up on a Monday night.
This was something, Hutton, that I
Large
was so wishing for us to do a live show from this bar in Milwaukee as the season went
Jack's
on.
American Pub.
This was my dream, was that, obviously that Aaron Rodgers would stay healthy and that the Jets would be like 7-0 or some point in the year and have a big game, and that we could go to this place to see the crowd and interview people. That dream is now dead.
I want to hear the owner instead of just read the quote and assume the tone. Go, quote, Scott Schaefer's the owner of Jack's American Pub. Quote, people thought they were going to get free drinks for 90% of the game.
He's laughing, too.
This is like a Mattress Mac type promotion.
No matter what he wins, all of the publicity, everything else going into it, he's a winner no matter what.
He also said that when Rodgers carted off, the bar roared with cheers. But
was Keith Olbermann in this bar?
No. He said they roared with cheers because once you're in there, you had to be in there 15 minutes prior. You had to set up the tab 15 minutes prior to kickoff. So if you've got your tab open, Schaefer, the owner, was saying it roared across the bar not because Rodgers got hurt, but because, quote, they thought their chances of free drinks had increased. So that was really exciting for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, that's why.
And how many guys do you think said, oh, put it on my tab? Put it on my tab all night.
Well, and we're trying to be like the big bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Everyone in there, hey, let's get some shot. Hey, the ladies over at table 3 look like they need some more shots.
And
let's get them some shots.
The girls got there in the middle of the first quarter.
Jonathan's tab over here.
Yeah.
And then they're putting it on there. Then at the end of the night, the guy's looking down, and it's $1,400.
And how many texts went out as soon as Rodgers went, get over here, there's a free bar, open bar, more or less, because the Jets are going to lose. And then everything went on tabs that were astronomical.
Quick injury update, Hutton. I don't think you've hit this from Ari Mirov. Titans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins did not practice due to an ankle injury today.
That's
new, right?
That's brand new, yeah. He was not listed going into practice today when Vrabel spoke. Burks also missed practice, I believe, due to personal issues.
That could change the game plan a bit if those two guys are out.
You want the Chargers in an elimination pick?
Yeah. Can I switch my pick?
We have to pick a bad option and pick our poison for the NFL going into the weekend and just in perpetuity, I think, is what Davey's going to hit here. Davey, today's question for Pick Your Poison.
Yes, guys. So we got two questions for today, but the first one is an offensive coordinator and a quarterback combo. And as you can imagine, you're not going to like these choices. And this is not necessarily indicative of their current situation.
Okay.
But it's just, hey, you got to start in a new team. This is going to be your OC. This is going to be your quarterback. Are you taking Nathaniel Hackett and Zach Wilson, obviously together right now? We got to see a little bit of what that looked like, and they got a win. And then we also, our other option, Dave Canales and Baker Mayfield, the OC and the QB in Tampa, also got a win.
I don't know much about Dave Canales, but I got to lean Canales, Baker Mayfield, in part because I think even Baker Mayfield, with all of his little, quirks and faults at times, I think he would be a better leader of my offense than what I've seen from Zach Wilson so far. Now, Zach Wilson's got plenty of time to improve. So I said this yesterday. That's why I'm not giving up on the Jets. I think he can improve. But I'm taking Canales Mayfield because I think Baker Mayfield's a better leader, quite frankly.
I don't know much about Dave Canales. I do know something, though, Chad.
Yeah?
He was the quarterback coach for Geno Smith in
He's
Seattle
not Nathaniel
last year.
Hackett. That's also
Geno Smith revitalized his career in Seattle. Canales was attached to that story. Now he's trying to do it as the OC with Baker Mayfield. Recency bias plays a factor for me as well with Nathaniel Hackett, he's in New York because of Rodgers, and now he's paired with Zach Wilson. I'm taking Canales and Mayfield. And, oh, by the way, Mayfield is spotting signs and tells of the Vikings defense in week 1. He goes in at halftime, and he had figured out their signals. So he's telling receivers, like, hey, this is going to be, if they do this, it's cover 2. If they do this, it's cover 3.
Yeah.
And it played out that way in the second half of the Vikings defense. That's now Brian Flores' defense.
If you'd never seen Hackett be the head coach,
it would be Hackett. It's a good point. I know where you're going here. It would absolutely be Hackett because what we know about him is, man, they had a lot of success with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So, right, he'd get the shine off of that and nothing else. It's a great point, Davey. If I didn't see him fail miserably,
he was the OC in Jacksonville.
Yeah, if I didn't see him fail miserably in Denver, it might change my opinion a bit.
Yeah.
But to me, this is less about Hackett as an OC and more of an indictment on Zach Wilson as a quarterback. Right? That's the way I look at it.
I agree.
And I'm kind of looking at these things
Matt LaFleur gets a lot of hype around that offense as well as Rodgers before Hackett was getting.
But you see what I'm saying? I look at these pick your poison questions. This is a 1-year proposition. I've got nameless, faceless team, and this is my option for success in one season.
Yeah.
If I'm going long haul, then I'm going Nathaniel Hackett, Zach Wilson, because Wilson's younger and there's more time for him to improve. But 1 year, I'm going Canales Mayfield.
Davey, you're saying if last year didn't happen, right?
I'm just saying
if we didn't see him,
if you didn't know what he was as a head coach, and all you knew was Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator, does that impact?
Well, yes, it would. Chad's right, but on the success of Green Bay, and he's had the back-to-back MVP seasons 2-time. But I'll also say Canales is at least working his way up the staircase. It worked with Geno last year, and now trying to do it as the OC in Tampa. At least I've seen him attached to a reclamation project.
And I guess I probably should have put this out there.
And it's worked well.
Before this year, all I've known about Canales is just his tie-in with Pete Carroll. Like he's never been outside of Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
And he's just a QB coach last year, but now he gets the chance to pair himself with Mayfield.
So we're both going Canales Mayfield?
Yeah, I am. And it also, too, the division. That also factors into my line of thinking here. Successful, a bigger chance, a greater chance of success in the NFC South compared to the AFC East.
Okay. All right, guys, our next one, and I just want to go ahead and put an apology out there for everyone that happens to be a part of these fan bases, but the life of a diehard fan. I'm going to give you 3 fan bases, and you have to tell me which one of these 3 you would have to devote yourself to for the entirety of your life in NFL fandom, and the three teams are the Detroit Lions, the New York Football Jets, and the Cleveland Browns. Sorry, Tyler.
I like how you said Detroit.
Detroit
line
from Cleveland, I think is the line from Forrest Gump. This is an easy one for me. And I know this sounds crazy. And Tyler's going to love my answer here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm a Browns fan.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of a closet Browns fan as it is. I think the community of Browns fans far better than these other two fan bases. the elves, the
Jamar
dogs.
Chase calling them. We lost to some elves.
Yeah. Well, you know, I messed around and called this team a bunch of elves, and we just got shellacked by a bunch of elves. So I got to sit here and take this L after calling them elves. That was great from Jamar Chase. Yeah, I would be a Browns fan. Look, there's various degree of failure here with all three of these teams. I just think, let me go with the negative on the other ones.
Okay.
All right. The Jets fan. You are a fan of a New York City area team that is a far distant second place in that city to the New York Giants. You've got to constantly be flaunted with the Giants' success as a way more professional organization than your own, one that has an identity, one that has this mystique of buttoned-up professionalism.
You're the Mets of the NFL.
You're a dude wearing a cheese head for whatever reason that we just saw there. You're a cartoon character team that's won one Super Bowl, that had one great year, that hasn't been in the playoffs, as Ryan Leaf told us, since he was in prison in 2011, was the last time the Jets made the playoffs. So cross the Jets out for that reason. The Lions are the worst franchise in the NFL. I mean, they've been in the playoffs one time since the early 60s.
I think it's wins, right?
No, sorry, won a playoff game one time, 1991 against the Cowboys.
The lowest appearance.
Won one playoff game.
Is Arizona.
Yeah, I love the colors. I like the Lions uniform, so that would be cool to have that. I'm a Browns fan, though, on this list. To me, it's pretty easy.
Browns are my second choice. I'm going with the Lions, for two reasons.
Color. Honolulu blue.
They may suck, but at least I have a reason to be proud of the players that are on the field. Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
And draft
be cool
picks.
To have a vintage Barry Sanders jersey. That would be cool.
With the Jets, I'm buying Rodgers and Favre jerseys.
Yeah. Not exactly lifelong Jets.
Yeah. So
Joe Namath throwback.
Again, it's pick your poison. These are awful options that you have to know about the history of when you're joining the fan base. All three, by the way, extremely loyal fan bases.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Of course.
I just like the individual players that I've seen in Detroit. There aren't many over the recent history, but at least I can point to some of the greatest to play their position ever in Sanders and Calvin Johnson.
Scott Mitchell.
Yeah.
So just some of the best ever.
But, Stafford's incredible and still can't crack the playoffs there.
Wayne Fonts.
It's awful.
I like the Lions. Here's what I like about the Lions. I love their uniforms. I'm a big uniform guy. I would go Lions second on this list for the uniform alone. And I do like the loyalty of the fan base given all those. I think Jets, to me, is a distant third on this list, Hutton. I would go Browns, Lions, Jets in that order.
And all three with preseason, big preseason expectations this year as teams and as a franchise.
Doesn't it feel, though, like maybe I'm way off here, and I understand the market size. Of the group, I feel like the Browns have the biggest fan base.
Yes. Nationally?
Yeah. Nationally,
Browns
but
Nation.
Like regionally. And I understand, New York, New Jersey, that whole metropolitan area is enormous. But the Jets are such a distant second in that area that I still feel like it's the Browns.
Think about the teams, though, that are bad historically. Isn't it still crazy to me that the Bengals aren't on this question?
Yeah.
But they, again, like...
Bengals would be well behind the Browns for me, too.
Cardinals, but we've seen them appear in recent Super Bowls.
Davey, just bring us three bad franchises, even if it's recently bad, every week, and we could play this game with a bunch of different teams.
Okay.
To me, the hardest one would be like Panthers, Jags, Cardinals.
See,
I'm sorry, but none of them, because none of them have any history. I'm always going to go with a team with the history and the loyal fan base over these makeshift fly-by-night turquoise teams.
I just don't feel like I could, even though they had a bad week one.
No turquoise teams for me.
The Bengals, overall, I get the ways in which that franchise has really struggled, but they did just ink their quarterback, who they know is the franchise guy, to a long-term deal.
Oh, no, I'm with you.
Yes.
Again, I'm still surprised that the Bengals aren't a part of the discussion based on what they've done. They're the Jets of their state. The Browns are dominant again, but
the Browns dwarf the
it's a
Cincinnati
no-brainer
fans.
with the Bengals right now.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson is a team captain of the Cleveland Browns this year.
Right, guy you can really get behind.
Yeah.
And me as a Browns fan, I for one, big fan of him.
The loyal
big
fan base says no
of his.
chance.
Yeah,
no chance to. But
hey, nothing to see here, guys.
But to get behind the quarterback.
Nothing to see here. Don't go after my favorite Cleveland Brown, Deshaun Watson.
Imagine
nothing to see here.
A Cleveland-Detroit Super Bowl.
Hutton's got a kind of Cleveland Browns themed shirt on today too. Look at that.
Dog pound.
And I'm going Jets.
Back at it tomorrow, 3 to 6 Eastern, across the OutKick Network for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow.